In April, the gentle sunlight bathed the earth, and the refreshing breeze brushed by, lifting spirits. In the development zone of Kaiyuan City, on a shaded, sparsely populated road, an ambulance, speeding with its siren blaring, suddenly screeched to a halt, startling everyone inside. Ancient medical arts could treat tangible illnesses, but couldn't diagnose their conditions. However, they could not only treat virtual illnesses but also identify their causes. All of this was thanks to the virtue eye. Sister Moore, why are you here? Du Yuha exclaimed in surprise, rushing forward to warmly link arms with the beautiful woman. Seeing Du Yuha, Gumir smiled slightly before turning to the group of medical dispute instigators. Frowning sternly, she said, I've already called the police. Don't think your reckless behavior will make our hospital back down. Don't even dream of it. Du Zhong looked at Gumir with admiration, never expecting to see her again in such a place. Her breathtaking beauty had captivated him yesterday. It was the first time he'd encountered someone who couldn't simply be described as pretty. Seeing her evoked a heartfelt exclamation. Beautiful. That simplest word contained the most complex emotions. It's him. Gumir also noticed Du Zhong. She glanced at him and nodded with a smile. Seeing this, Du Yuha's eyes sparkled mischievously as a sly smile played on her lips. She pulled Gumir over to Du Zhong and said, Let me introduce you. Sister Moore, this is my second brother, Du Zhong. Second brother, this is the flower of our hospital, Gumir. Hello, Du Zhong said with a smile. Hello, Gumir replied warmly. After the brief exchange, both turned their attention back to the medical dispute instigators, who had already begun to act violently, smashing anything they could get their hands on. What are you doing? Do you realize this is a crime? Gumir's face turned cold as she scolded them. You kill people, and it's not a crime, but what we're doing is... What's the use of keeping such a black-hearted hospital, with black-hearted doctors and nurses? Smash it all, Wang Lu shouted, and the group immediately began destroying everything in sight. Virtue Eye open. Du Zhong perfectly merged his essence, energy, and spirit, focusing his consciousness between his eyebrows. He felt as if an eye was slowly awakening, a truly wondrous sensation. The world before him underwent subtle changes. You. Gumir was furious but helpless. Stop. Du Zhong's roar echoed through the floor, causing everyone's eardrums to ache and their actions to halt instinctively. Before you continue, let me ask, are you going to pay for the things you break? Du Zhong asked with a frown. Everyone, pay my ass, a young man in morning clothes snarled viciously. Before the words had even faded, a large hand slapped him across the face. With a cry of pain and several bloody teeth flying out, the young man was sent flying backward. Watch your language, Du Zhong said coldly. No one had seen how he moved or how he struck, but everyone witnessed the sheer brutality of the blow. This scene made Gumir frown slightly. For a moment, she felt that Du Zhong's aura was a bit too fierce. The handsome guy's roommate came to life. The professional hospital troublemakers were dumbfounded. They never expected the old man to actually be revived by this young man. How would this farce end? Gumir looked at Du Zhong with curiosity, wondering how he knew the old man wasn't dead and how he knew the exact treatment needed. Is this the legendary virtue eye that can see the wrongdoings a person has committed? Du Zhong curiously experienced this new perception, feeling the world so clearly and harmoniously for the first time. It seemed as if the entire world was filled with peace and nature, everywhere kind and warm, without any gloom. Yay, second brother, you're amazing. Du Yuha gazed at Du Zhong with admiration, making him a bit embarrassed. Why am I here? The old man asked groggily, looking around. Dad, what happened? Why did you suddenly pass out? Did you take some medicine? The middle-aged man still suspected medical malpractice. No, I didn't take any medicine. I was just lying in bed, couldn't catch my breath, and then I blacked out. The old man's words left the family and the troublemakers exchanging stunned looks, realizing the hospital wasn't at fault. The nurses, now vindicated, glared angrily at the troublemakers. Thank you for saving my father. The middle-aged man sincerely thanked Du Zhong. The protest had been a last resort, and his father's safety was what mattered most. It was nothing, Du Zhong nodded slightly, gesturing to the mess and the bloody doctor. What about this? We'll compensate for it, the man said after a moment's hesitation. Satisfied, Du Zhong stepped back. But Wang Lu, who had been restrained earlier, wasn't ready to let it go. He had caused a scene only for the matter to be resolved peacefully, with no compensation for him to take a cut from. And it was all because of this kid. Hey kid, you think you're tough? Just wait. Wang Lu dialed a number. Brother Han, it's Wang Lu. There's a tough guy at the hospital. Can you help deal with him? What kind of tough guy can't you handle? Zhang Han thought to himself. Could the guy Wang Lu encountered compare to the one he faced yesterday afternoon? His arms still ached. It's a young guy, really fast and ruthless. Young, fast, ruthless. Zhang Han frowned, suddenly remembering something. He jumped up from the sofa and urgently asked, "Describe him to me." After Wang Lu gave a brief description of Du Zhong, Zhang Han was already drenched in cold sweat. How could he have imagined that the ruthless guy from before had shown up at the hospital and clashed with his men? "Apologize to him now. If he doesn't forgive you, you're on your own." Zhang Han yelled before angrily hanging up. 10 seconds later, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his head. The virtue I instantly vanished, and the world returned to its original state. His face turned pale. This thing really drains mental energy. It seems I need to train my mental strength more. Du Zhong smiled wryly. Even with the powerful mental strength of a military king, he could only maintain it for a brief 10 seconds. It was unimaginable how ordinary people might not even be able to open the virtue at all. Wang Lu, still confused, soon realized the gravity of the situation. The way he looked at Du Zhong completely changed. He had never seen his boss so terrified. Not even the infamous Kaiyuan gang leader had that effect. The next moment shocked everyone. Wang Lu, who had been so arrogant moments before, was now bowing and scraping before Du Zhong. I'm sorry. I was blind. Please forgive me." As he spoke, Wang Lu slapped himself hard across the face several times. The onlookers' perceptions of Du Zhong shifted entirely. The families involved in the protest now saw him as enigmatic. What kind of person could force a gang leader to apologize so humbly? The nurses were equally stunned. Gumyur, frowning, and the others turned to Du Yuha, who shrugged, indicating she had no idea her brother was this impressive. Du Zhong had overheard the phone conversation. He looked at Wang Lu coolly and said, "Get lost." "Yes, I'll go right away." Wang Lu and his crew fled in disgrace, not even bothering to remove their mourning clothes. The protesting families compensated the hospital and left as well. A chaotic situation that even the hospital had been afraid to confront was resolved effortlessly by Du Zhong. "Not bad, young man," said an elderly man in a standard doctor's coat who had appeared unnoticed. He looked to be in his 60s, with a vibrant complexion, graying hair, and sharp, perceptive eyes. While others hadn't noticed his arrival, Du Zhong had seen him appear shortly after Gumyur. "Dar, Qin, you're here." Gumyur greeted him respectfully. Du Yuha and the other nurses also greeted him politely. Dr. Qin was a renowned traditional Chinese medicine physician at the affiliated hospital, highly respected by all. He waved off the formalities and smiled at Du Zhong. "The technique you used just now, was it a military treatment method?" Du Zhong nodded. Special forces had specialized training in how to save others and themselves. Impressive technique. I haven't seen anyone perform it so skillfully and accurately since it was first developed. "Young man, you must be quite capable," Dr. Qin continued with a smile. Du Zhong smiled faintly, but said nothing. However, the old man's words made him reassess Dr. Qin. The military technique was supposedly unique, created by an expert for the armed forces. Yet this old man recognized it at a glance, and seemed intimately familiar with its history. "He's no ordinary person," Du Zhong thought to himself. "Young man, do you have a job?" Dr. Qin suddenly asked an unexpected question. "Not yet." "Perfect. How about joining our hospital? We need someone with your skills and the kind of background that deter professional troublemakers. How about being a team leader in the security department? Would you be willing? Until you find something better, you could also protect your sister." Dr. Qin watched Du Zhong calmly. Du Zhong frowned. Others might have found the offer disrespectful, but he sensed something deeper in the old man's words. After a moment's silence, he said, "My sister is finishing her internship today and returning to school. She doesn't need my protection. However, I accept." Dr. Qin's question was unexpected, and Du Zhong's reply was equally surprising, leaving everyone puzzled. Fortunately, the inheritance included methods to train mental strength. One was to constantly challenge physical and psychological limits, and the other was to meditate. With more practice, he could steadily improve his mental strength. Dr. Qin nodded in satisfaction. "Young man, come visit the 13th floor when you have time." "I'll make sure to do that," Du Zhong agreed. As Dr. Qin entered the elevator and left, Du Zhong smiled slightly. He could clearly feel Dr. Qin's goodwill toward him. He had accepted the offer because he thought learning some medical skills from Dr. Qin while searching for Qin Kaiyuan wouldn't be a waste of time. Besides, he didn't need a job to support himself. "Brother, how are things with the ancestral shrine?" Du has suddenly popped up in front of him. With the protest resolved, she had regained her usual liveliness. "Temporarily resolved. They won't dare make a move for a while," Du Zhong replied. Then, Du Yuha's eyes sparkled as she casually suggested, "Since the ancestral shrine is safe now, it's not ideal for you to keep living there. Why don't you move in with me? I'll be going back to school soon anyway." Before Du Zhong could respond, Gumyur interjected sharply, a cold look on her face. Yuha, what are you trying to do? Du-jong glanced at the stunningly beautiful woman, confused by her strong reaction. Du-yuha put on an innocent, pleading expression. Sister Muir, look how pitiful my brother is, with nowhere to stay. I'm moving out anyway, so why not let him take my place? My brother is handsome and honorable. He'd never take advantage. Plus, with someone as capable as him protecting you, I'd feel much better. No, I prefer living alone. I like quiet. Gumyur firmly refused. Although she had a favorable impression of Du-jong, that didn't mean she was willing to live under the same roof with a stranger. Seeing this, Du-yuha immediately resorted to her usual tactics of acting cute and playing dumb to win sympathy. Du-jong watched the two women whispering and occasionally gesturing toward him, and he couldn't help but smile wryly. As someone inexperienced in matters of the heart, he didn't fully grasp Du-yuha's intentions, but the idea of living with a beautiful woman didn't seem bad. Unfortunately, the lady in question wasn't on board. No, I don't agree. Gumyur's firm stance ended the discussion, leaving Du-yuha looking defeated and wronged. Seeing his sister's expression, Du-jong shook his head with a smile and was about to say something when the elevator doors opened. A handsome young doctor rushed out, anxiously scanning the area. His eyes lit up when he spotted Gumyur. Muir, I heard you were handling the protest. Are you okay? You weren't hurt, were you? He scrutinized her from head to toe. Du-jong noticed the clear distaste in both Gumyur and Du-yuha's eyes as they looked at the young doctor. I'm fine, Gumyur said abruptly, turning to Du-yuha. About what we discussed earlier, I agree. Du-yuha was momentarily stunned, but then she hugged Gumyur excitedly. Thank you, Sister Muir. Brother, after work, let's move your things to our place. You can have my room. From now on, you'll protect Sister Muir. What? The young doctor exclaimed in shock. Muir, he's going to live with you. That's right. Gumyur nodded. No, absolutely not. The doctor's face turned grim. He couldn't bear the thought of a stranger living under the same roof as the woman of his dreams. Who is he? Do you even know him, Muir? How can you invite someone you don't know into your home? What if he's dangerous? This is like inviting a wolf into your house. After briefly browsing the contents of the inheritance, the hand seals, incantations, and talisman drawings were all clear in his mind, requiring no further memorization. Du-jong opened his eyes. Standing solemnly before the ancestral tablet, he solemnly raised his right hand and vowed, I, Du-jong, the 89th generation unworthy descendant of the Du family, am fortunate to inherit the ancestral medical arts today. In this lifetime, I will live up to the ancestors' expectations and carry forward the true medical arts of the Du family. If I break this vow, may I be struck by lightning. Du-jong frowned at this. What do you mean? He's my brother. How could he be dangerous? Du-yuha retorted angrily. Your brother. Wu-hai-ho was taken aback. He had no idea Du-yuha had an older brother. Even so, it's not appropriate, he insisted through gritted teeth. It's not your decision to make. It's mine and Sister Muir's. Du-yuha snapped. Exactly. After work, bring him over. I'm heading back to my department, Gumyur said, leaving without even a glance at Du-jong. Wu-hai-ho shot Du-jong a venomous glare before following her. In that look, Du-jong saw jealousy and hatred. He smiled faintly. On another battlefield, enemies who had given him such looks had not survived. Virtue eye open. You player, Du-yuha said disdainfully. That guy who relies on his looks to flirt around the hospital all day was completely captivated the moment he saw Sister Moore. He's been shamelessly pursuing her, annoying her to no end. But since he has some influence in the hospital, Sister Moore doesn't dare to go too far. Still, I have to thank that flirtatious guy today. If it weren't for him, Sister Moore would never have agreed to let you stay with me. Du-yuha looked at Du-jong with a raised eyebrow. Second brother, I've paved the way for you. The rest is up to you. Go for it, second brother. What effort? Du-jong asked, confused. Oh heavens! Du-yuha slapped her forehead in exasperation. Remembering that her brother had left home at 16, underage, and spent 6 years in a place with no women, she felt even more speechless. She wanted to explain, but found she had no idea how. She'd never been in a relationship herself, and had no experience to share. Helplessly, she said, just figure it out and experience it slowly yourself. Okay, Du-jong nodded, only half understanding. After bidding farewell to Du-yuha, Du-jong went straight to the HR department to complete his onboarding procedures. Old Man Sheen had already made arrangements, so he could start work the next day. By noon, when work ended, Du-jong followed Du-yuha to move his luggage to a scenic residential area not far from the hospital. Having grown accustomed to a rugged, nomadic lifestyle for 6 years, Du-jong was taken aback when he saw the romantically decorated room of a young woman. Was he really going to live in such a place? Would his army comrades laugh at him for becoming soft? Definitely. Du Zhong paused mid-thought, shaking his head with a bitter smile. There's no way to send word back. I've been discharged. I can't go back. This unfamiliar, modern city is my new battlefield, a battlefield where I fight alone. After speaking, he bent his knees and knelt on the ground. Thud, thud, thud. 9 kowtows shook the earth. The ancestral worship concluded, marking the official return of the former military king, Du Zhong, to the city. The future was now in his hands. Du Yuha cheerfully helped Du Zhong settle in, tidied up her own belongings to take back later, and then handed him the keys before returning to the hospital for work. Du Zhong stood in the room that, in his eyes, might corrupt him, and sighed in resignation. In the end, he accepted reality. He was no longer a soldier. But as long as his military spirit remained, he wouldn't succumb to decay. He stepped out to survey every corner of the unfamiliar surroundings. He walked slowly, as if strolling, but with each step, the layout of the community formed clearly in his mind. The number and placement of security cameras, blind spots, the quickest escape routes, the best locations for setting traps. Du Zhong moved like a well-trained leopard, thoroughly familiarizing himself with and asserting control over his new territory. After his reconnaissance, Du Zhong had a complete grasp of the community's layout. Checking the time, he saw there was still a while before his 7 p.m. appointment, so he used it to optimize his condition. At exactly 7 p.m., Du Zhong arrived at the entrance of the XXX Grand Hotel. Lu Han, his arm bandaged, stood there with a short, stout, and wealthy-looking middle-aged man. Spotting Du Zhong, Zhang Han stiffened and whispered to Huang Mingjin, "He's here." Huang Mingjin immediately turned his attention to the young man who, in just 1 hour the previous night, had cowed the entire underground scene into silence. Calm, composed, powerful, and confident. That was the immediate impression Du Zhong gave Huang Mingjin. He seemed to be facing a lion, ready to display its majesty at any moment. This young man won't be easy to deal with. Huang Mingjin's expectations for the negotiation dwindled. A person so composed, powerful, and confident wouldn't be swayed by money, especially when it came to his ancestral home. What a tough situation. What are you doing? A startled cry from his younger sister outside broke the silence in the ancestral hall. Du Zhong abruptly stood up, frowning as he walked out into the courtyard. His frown deepened at the sight. Huang Mingjin hurried forward, clasping Du Zhong's hands with a smile. "Hello, Du Zhong. After last night, I doubt there's anyone of influence in Kaiyuan City who hasn't heard of you. I'm impressed." His words weren't mere flattery. They came from genuine admiration. While Huang Mingjin observed Du Zhong was observing him as well. From the first glance, Du Zhong felt an uneasy premonition about Huang Mingjin, a strange sensation he'd never experienced before. When their hands met, the feeling intensified, and he suddenly understood. His ancient medical art had activated automatically. Could this person have committed some immoral deeds? If someone lacks virtue, the negative energies they attract can't enter their body to cause illness. This is known as a deficiency disease. Focusing his spiritual energy between his eyebrows, Du Zhong silently commanded, "Virtue, eye open." Instantly, he felt as if the skin between his eyebrows had vanished. The world before him shifted slightly, becoming exceptionally clear and transparent, as if everything lay bare under his gaze. Looking at Huang Mingjin, it was as if an energy field enveloped him, rendering his body transparent to Du Zhong's eyes. This was the first time he had used the virtue eye on a person. He clearly saw gray energy coiling around Huang Mingjin's skeleton, with his bones appearing blackened inside. The dark energy around his waist was particularly intense, and on the surface of his skin, there was a pattern resembling a crimson snake. As he observed, streams of information silently flowed into Du Zhong's mind. The more he learned, the darker his expression grew. His fists clenched, and anger flickered in his eyes. A group of thugs armed with iron rods and various tools stood arrogantly in the courtyard. Among them was the yellow-haired punk he had beaten earlier. Du Yuha, seeing her second brother come out, quickly ran over and hid behind Du Zhong. Huang Mingjin grew uneasy under Du Zhong's intense stare and was about to break the awkward silence when he heard a cold snort. "Does your entire body ache unbearably at night?" Huang Mingjin shuddered, staring at Du Zhong in disbelief. This secret was known only to his estranged wife. He hadn't found time to seek treatment due to his busy career. How could this stranger know? As he opened his mouth to speak, another statement, sharp as thunder, left him stunned. "Your back pain is severe, and you have a snake-like sore on your waist that won't heal, no matter what treatment you try. Right? How do you know?" Huang Mingjin stepped back in shock, under the bewildered gazes of those around him. Du Zhong suddenly seemed enigmatic and unfathomable in his eyes. While others might have noticed his bone pain in daily life, The snake-like sore was something only a close relative would know. He couldn't fathom how Du Zhong had discovered it. Was this man somehow divine? Those who do evil will inevitably face retribution. Du Zhong deactivated his virtue, fighting off the ensuing weakness, and cast a disdainful look at Huang Mingjin. I've lost my appetite for this meal. Let me make this clear. My family's ancestral shrine will not be touched unless I'm dead. And before I die, you'll be the first to go. His sweeping gaze sent a chill up the spines of everyone present. At the sight of Du Zhong, the yellow-haired punk, recalling the earlier fear, instinctively shrank back. But remembering the many brothers behind him, his courage quickly returned. Big brother, this is the guy. Not only did he get in the way, but he also said if we came back, he'd break our legs. The yellow-haired punk pointed at Du Zhong, addressing a burly man in a black tank top, a thick gold chain around his neck, smoking a cigarette, with a green dragon tattoo visible on his exposed skin. With that, he turned to leave. Seeing Du Zhong about to walk away, Huang Mingjin panicked. If the ancestral shrine remained, his company would suffer significant losses. Desperate, he called out his offer. 3 million in cash, plus 2 apartments. Do we have a deal? When Du Zhong showed no sign of stopping, Huang Mingjin grew more frantic. Gritting his teeth, he shouted, 6 million in cash and 3 apartments. How about that? What? Zhang Han, standing nearby, was dumbfounded. The highest compensation for that area had been 2 million plus 1 apartment. Huang Mingjin had just tripled the offer. At that, Du Zhong halted. Huang Mingjin's heart leaped with hope. It seemed the young man was tempted. He smiled and said, if you're interested, young Du, please join us inside. Let's share drinks and merriment. I'd truly like to be your friend. But when Du Zhong turned around, Huang Mingjin's smile froze. Du Zhong looked at him with pity. Can any amount of money compare to your life? What use is money if you're dead? Young Du, what do you mean? Huang Mingjin frowned. A young man with dyed yellow hair, carrying a shovel on his shoulder, his left hand tucked in his pocket, eyed the girl's slender figure and chuckled. Listen, little girl, we're just doing a job for some cash. Someone wants to buy your land, but you're stubbornly refusing to sell. So we have no choice but to help tear down this shabby house first. Don't get in the way, or your clothes might accidentally get torn. His gaze grew even more brazen. The burly man took a few deep drags from his cigarette, threw it to the ground, and crushed it under his foot while staring expressionlessly at Du Zhong. Seeing no trace of panic on Du Zhong's face, the burly man sneered. Kid, you're quite arrogant. Pitiable man. Du Zhong shook his head and sighed. Those who do evil will inevitably face retribution. You've committed too many wrongs. To be blunt, you're afflicted with illness and have only 2 days left to live. Cherish them. He turned and walked away, leaving Huang Mingjin and his subordinates in stunned silence. Boss Huang. Zhang Han approached cautiously. I'm fine. That guy's just a fucking lunatic. Huang Mingjin spat through gritted teeth. But before he could finish, he clutched his mouth in pain. Pulling his hand away, he saw it covered in blood and a blood-stained pebble. From afar, Du Zhong's icy voice echoed. Watch your language. No one dared to speak. Only when Du Zhong was far gone did they breathe a sigh of relief. As Du Zhong walked, he reflected on his first use of the virtue on a person. The results had exceeded his expectations. Not as arrogant as you. I wouldn't dare tattoo a mantis shrimp on my body, Du Zhong said calmly. Not only could it see through a person's body, clearly tracing their meridians, but it also revealed their ailments. Even more astonishing was the flood of information, what diseases they had, what immoral acts had caused them, all flowing into his mind. The ancient medical art was truly miraculous. From the information he received, he learned that Huang Mingjin had a strained relationship with his wife, was stubborn, resentful, intolerant of others, and under immense pressure at work, which he stubbornly endured. He was also deeply unfilial to his parents. Each of these factors had allowed negative energy to invade his body, causing spinal tuberculosis, a herniated disc, periostitis, and even life-threatening bone cancer. Du Zhong wasn't a cold-hearted person who would refuse to save someone. On the contrary, he was exceptionally compassionate and had been nicknamed Little Lei Feng in the army. It wasn't that he refused to save Huang Mingjin, but the negative and diseased energies had merged with Huang Mingjin's very being. Unless Huang Mingjin genuinely repented and resolved to rid himself of these energies, Du Zhong could do nothing. External factors only work through internal causes. With Huang Mingjin's internal refusal to repent, any treatment would only delay the inevitable. For someone who had committed so many wrongs, Du Zhong had no desire to save him, not even to delay his fate. Unless Huang Mingjin sincerely repented, his outcome was certain death. Mantis shrimp. Everyone froze for a few seconds. Du Yuha burst out laughing, her eyes playfully glancing at the burly man's tattoo, her amusement growing. Returning home just after 8 p.m., Du Zhong had a sudden idea. He walked to the desk in his bedroom, pulled out a sheet of paper, and began writing. Gumor dragged her tired body home. The thought of a strange man living in her house made her uncomfortable, but since he was Du Yu's second brother, she couldn't just kick him out. So, she had drafted a set of house rules at the hospital. If he followed them, they could be respectful, friendly roommates. If not, she'd have an excuse to evict him. Please refuse to follow the rules so I can kick you out, Gumor muttered under her breath as she reached her door. Unlocking it, she was met with the sight of Du Zhong sitting cross-legged on the sofa. The moment she entered, his eyes opened, and he smiled. His smile is quite nice, but I still have to kick him out. Setting 3 rules with a beauty, Gumor responded with a smile, then cheerfully pulled a piece of paper from her bag. Just as she was about to speak, she noticed Du Zhong pointing toward the coffee table, where a blank sheet of paper lay conspicuously. These are some rules I've written. I hope you can follow them. It'll be better for both of us, Du Zhong said calmly, looking into Gumor's eyes. You're setting rules for me? Gumor's expression suddenly turned peculiar. Yes, Du Zhong nodded. Are you kidding me? Gumor exploded in anger. This guy was utterly unbelievable. She had generously allowed him to stay, yet instead of feeling indebted, he acted so arrogantly. How outrageous. The burly man's face darkened with rage. Kid, don't get cocky. I'll give you 2 choices. Either take 200,000 and get lost, selling this place to us, or today, I'll make sure you're carried out. As the boss spoke, the surrounding thugs tightened their grips on their weapons, ready to charge and take Du Zhong down at any moment. I'm not joking, Du Zhong said with a serious face. Watching his expression, Gumor suddenly laughed, her smile radiating a chilling coldness. I'd love to use a scalpel to slice open your face and see just how thick your skin is. Skin? Du Zhong looked puzzled. Gumor was speechless. She pursed her dry lips, snatched the paper from the coffee table in anger, and decided to see what this unreasonable, clueless guy was up to. Rule 1. Without his permission, she was not allowed to enter his room. Reading this, Gumor nearly threw the paper right into Du Zhong's expressionless face, as if she were eager to barge into his room. She wouldn't even if he begged her. Rule 2. Without permission, she was not allowed to touch his belongings. Seriously, mister, what valuable items do you even have that I want to touch? Rule 3. Both parties should live their own lives and coexist peacefully. 10 seconds. Choose. Du Zhong sneered, his eyes gleaming with a chilling coldness. If he hadn't retired and returned in time today, he couldn't imagine what harm might have come to his younger sister. The thought made his gaze toward the group even more hostile, his tone icier. This rule made Gumor's blood boil. What did coexist peacefully even mean? What could possibly happen if they didn't? What could happen between them? Clenching her teeth, Gumor glared furiously at Du Zhong. If she weren't physically outmatched, she would have already taken a swing at him. Du Zhong looked at her expectantly and asked, So, what do you think? No problem. Gumor suddenly broke into a smile. Her stunningly beautiful face curved into a charming arc, though the chill in her smile grew even more intense. She casually tossed the stack of papers toward Du Zhong, aiming directly for his face. Du Zhong smiled slightly, effortlessly catching all the papers just as they were about to scatter midair. This scene made Gumor's pretty face twitch slightly. She had deliberately thrown them loosely, expecting at least a few sheets to hit his face, but he had caught every single one. 10 pages, 216 rules. Just thinking about those numbers lifted Gumor's spirits. She was certain Du Zhong would never agree. The next step would be to kick this guy out with satisfaction. But what happened next first stunned her, then filled her with a deep sense of being ignored. Du Zhong gathered the papers, flipped through them randomly, glanced at a couple of pages, then set them back on the coffee table. Looking at Gumor, he said in a magnetic and resolute voice, I agree to all of them. 10 seconds. Disappear from my sight, or I'll make sure all of you crawl out. Instantly, the courtyard fell silent. The next moment, laughter erupted as everyone looked at Du Zhong as if he were an idiot. Did you even read them before agreeing? Gumor asked angrily. She felt deeply disregarded by this guy, as if he hadn't even bothered to read the rules before casually dismissing her. I've read them, Du Zhong affirmed. Then recite them for me, Gumor demanded, exasperated. Reciting all of them in such a short time was clearly an impossible task. She intended to embarrass this dismissive jerk. But what followed left her utterly shocked. Rule 1. Dress appropriately at home. No exposing any part of the body beyond the shoulders. Rule 2. Do not enter the other's bedroom without permission. Rule 3. Shower time is limited to 10 minutes, with an additional 5 minutes to clean the bathroom. Rule 4. Du Zhong began reciting without hesitation, each word striking Gumor's heart like a heavy stone. What's more, he didn't sound like he was reciting It was as if he were casually stating the rules as if he had just made them up on the spot. Most terrifyingly, he maintained an absolutely even pace without a single pause. No, he wasn't reciting, he was speaking. How was this possible? Who was this guy? How could he possess such a terrifying memory? One mystery after another swirled in Gumyur's mind, making the man she had previously deemed thick-skinned suddenly seem like an enigmatic puzzle, one that intrigued and challenged her to uncover. Gumyur stared at Du Zhong, lost in thought. Rule 216. Change in his slippers upon entering. Haha, kid, who do you think you are? 1 against 20? Are you out of your mind? I can't believe we ran into a fool. Kid, better listen to our boss and scram, or you'll regret it. 4 minutes later, Du Zhong finished reciting, snapped his fingers to snap Gumyur out of her daze, and said, since we both agreed to each other's rules, let's start now. I'm going to take a shower. 10 minutes, huh? With that, Du Zhong stood up and headed to the bathroom. As a former elite soldier, this level of memorization was child's play for Du Zhong. He had achieved far more difficult and impressive feats countless times before. Gumyur continued to stare blankly at Du Zhong's retreating figure. As someone highly gifted in medicine, she genuinely wanted to use a scalpel to open his head and see if there was a computer or memory card inside. How could anyone memorize so much in such a short time? Was he even human? Gumyur suddenly gasped and covered her face. Was I staring at him like a lovesick fool? Her cheeks burned with embarrassment. That night, Gumyur tossed and turned, unable to sleep. She didn't even know when she finally drifted off, as her mind kept alternating between replaying Du Zhong reciting the rules, scolding herself for not staying calm the night before, and fuming over Du Zhong's 3 rules. The next morning, Gumyur felt it necessary to show Du Zhong some attitude and remind him that she was the one in charge here. The more she thought about his rules, the angrier she became. A note. Gumyur spotted a message on the coffee table. She walked over lightly, picked it up, and read, I've gone to work. Breakfast is in the kitchen. Those 10 simple words inexplicably warmed her heart. Trying to win me over with breakfast? No way. Gumyur shook her slightly groggy head, dismissing the thought, and muttered to herself. But with Du Zhong already at work, her original plan was thwarted once again. The early morning in Kaiyuan City carried a refreshing coolness. Accustomed to military life, Du Zhong treated the 5-kilometer journey to the hospital as a warm-up. Hearing their taunts, Du Yuha's grip on Du Zhong's arm tightened, her knuckles turning white as she pressed closer to him. Sensing his sister's unease, Du Zhong smiled and patted her hand before gently removing it. After strolling around the hospital before official hours began, he had a clear grasp of the entire layout. He then headed straight to the security office. Arriving at the security office, Du Zhong frowned at the scene before him. An entire team was lounging inside. One sprawled on a sofa watching TV, while the others gathered around a glass coffee table, engrossed in a card game. Every one of them had a cigarette dangling from their mouths, filling the room with smoke. There wasn't a hint of discipline to be seen. How could a security team with 0 combat effectiveness protect the hospital? Since he had agreed to be the security captain, it was his responsibility to ensure the hospital's safety. Let's treat this as training new recruits. It's been a while since I last trained rookies, Du Zhong thought with a faint smile, feeling a sense of nostalgia. He took a decisive step forward, scanned the 6 men in the room, and said coldly and disdainfully, bunch of trash. Hey, what did you say, kid? One of them threw down his cards, stood up, and looked Du Zhong up and down with clear annoyance. Clearly, losing at cards had put him in a bad mood. I said you're a bunch of trash. Instead of focusing on your duty to protect the hospital, you're gambling during work hours, turning the security office into a dump. If you live in a dump, what else are you but trash? Du Zhong said with contempt. His words drew angry glares from everyone. You're the new security captain, Du Zhong, right? A tall, burly young man, about 1.8 meters tall, stood up and squinted as he spoke. Correct. Du Zhong nodded. So, it's a new captain causing trouble. The security guard around the coffee table tossed their card aside and stood up, looking at Du Zhong with disdain. Their tone was mocking, clearly not taking the new captain seriously. 10 seconds. Time's up. Du Zhong took a step forward, his entire demeanor transforming with that step, becoming sharp and formidable. It was as if he had returned to the battlefield he knew so well. And the enemies before him were the ones who could take his life, his comrades' lives, or harm the nation's interests. When facing enemies, you either capture them or kill them. You'll find out soon enough if I'm causing trouble. Du Zhong sneered and barked. Everyone outside. In front of the security office, Du Zhong stood straight, watching each person as they filed out. The 6 men exchanged glances, smirked, and lazily assembled outside. Try to make a statement with your new authority? The tall, burly young man mocked coldly once they were gathered. Centered around him, the group stood listlessly, occasionally yawning. Line formation, assemble. Du Zhong shouted, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He already saw them as unruly new recruits. The more defiant they were, the more he enjoyed training them. Oh, taking this seriously? The tall, burly young man said playfully. Kid, fresh out of college, huh? First time as a security captain? Trying to get a power trip off us veterans? The other 5 guards burst into mocking laughter. Although Du Zhong was nominally the captain, the hospital wouldn't fire all of them just for him, right? There was strength in numbers. A mere security captain wasn't worth their concern. Seems like you don't respect me, Du Zhong said sternly, though the excitement in his eyes only grew. Respect? Of course we respect the security captain. But, kid, you've got to give us a reason to respect you. With that slim build of yours, you don't seem to have what it takes, the tall, burly young man Tao Xing said. You want to test me? Du Zhong suddenly grinned. This was exactly the reaction he wanted. With defiant recruits, provoking them and then crushing their pride was the way to go. Exactly, the tall young man said, cracking his knuckles. Du Zhong pushed off with his back foot, closing in on the burly man in an instant, throwing a punch at his face. The burly man, never having encountered such ferocity, instinctively raised his arms to block. But at that moment, Du Zhong sneered, his fist transforming into a palm, grabbing the burly man's arm and twisting it against the joint. I'm completely convinced. Kid, you're still too naive. A security guard with a lean build and regular features stepped forward, looking at Du Zhong with a sympathetic expression. The other 5 shared the same sentiment. Du Zhong remembered this guy. He was the only one lounging on the sofa watching TV. From his demeanor and appearance, he seemed to be the type with plenty of ideas in the security team. Wang Hao is a top graduate from a sports school. We gave you an easy way out, but you had to invite a challenge. Ah, so green. As soon as he finished speaking, a burst of laughter erupted behind him. What a pity. A fine sports school graduate has been dragged down to such a spineless state by all of you. Calling you a den of snakes and rats is spot on. Du Zhong sneered coldly. With that one remark, the entire security team fell into a solemn silence. Everyone stared intently at Du Zhong, as if they wanted to devour him. They had already been provoked repeatedly by this newcomer, and their patience had worn thin. They had only been giving him some face as the new captain, but that didn't mean they would tolerate being mocked at will. You said you wanted to challenge us, right? Wang Hao glared at Du Zhong angrily and said, I'll compete with you in push-ups. We'll do them together. If you can outdo me, I'll acknowledge you as the captain. If not, find somewhere else to cool off. Exactly. If you beat Wang Hao, we'll acknowledge you. Otherwise, just get lost. The other 5 immediately chimed in with cold laughter. Good. Remember your words. Du Zhong smiled with satisfaction and motioned for Wang Hao to begin. Listen, little girl, we're just doing a job for some cash. Someone wants to buy your land, but you're stubbornly refusing to sell. So we have no choice but to help tear down this shabby house first. Don't get in the way, or your clothes might accidentally get torn. Crack. One arm disabled. Before the burly man could even scream, Du Zhong's palm turned into a hand blade, striking the back of his neck and knocking him unconscious. The scream never left his throat, frozen in his mouth as he collapsed heavily to the ground. Start. With the command from the team strategist, Du Zhong and Wang Hao simultaneously dropped to the ground and began doing push-ups at a rapid pace. 20, 50, 80, both moved incredibly fast without the slightest pause, and neither showed any sign of fatigue. It had to be admitted that Wang Hao's sports school background was no joke. He had already matched Du Zhong with nearly 80 push-ups in one go. At 80, Wang Hao shot Du Zhong a challenging glance. He was astonished to see that Du Zhong, with his somewhat slender frame, had done 80 push-ups without even panting. The 5 security guards nearby were also taken aback, realizing they had underestimated Du Zhong. Let's see how long you can keep this up. Wang Hao snorted inwardly. Just as he prepared to continue, he saw Du Zhong give him a faint smile. What happened next made Wang Hao's pupils contract sharply. After already completing over 80 push-ups, far beyond the average person's limit, Du Zhong actually sped up? Yes, he accelerated. In the blink of an eye, Du Zhong had completed another 20. Wang Hao snapped back to reality, his eyes blazing with defiance, and he began doing push-ups frantically as well. The scene stunned the other 5, who found it hard to believe that Du Zhong, with his seemingly frail build, could be so ferocious. In less than 30 seconds, Du Zhong had completed another 100 rapid push-ups. After finishing, he held himself in the halfway position of a push-up, waiting for Wang Hao. As everyone knows, the most exhausting part of a push-up isn't the up and down motion, but holding the position when the arms are parallel to the body. And Du Zhong maintained that exact position until Wang Hao finished. After frantically completing 120 rapid push-ups, sweat was already streaming down Wang Hao's forehead. In contrast, Du Zhong still looked completely at ease. Still want to continue? Du Zhong asked Wang Hao with a smile. Yes. Wang Hao gritted his teeth, clearly not ready to concede. First one down. Du Zhong moved like a ghost, appearing beside the second person the next second, kicking him in the stomach and sending him flying sideways, unable to get up. Du Zhong nodded with satisfaction. He liked this kind of spirit. Then, under everyone's watchful eyes, Du Zhong removed his left hand and continued doing push-ups with just one hand, moving even more swiftly and powerfully. Whoosh! Everyone was stunned, staring at Du Zhong in disbelief. Not only did he have the energy to continue, but he was doing it with one hand, and even faster, steadier, and more powerful than with two hands. Wang Hao watched Du Zhong, lowered his head in thought for a moment, gritted his teeth, and also started doing one-handed push-ups. However, his speed was noticeably far behind Du Zhong's. After another 100, just when everyone thought Du Zhong was finally done and was about to push himself up with both hands, he retracted his ring fingers and pinkies, leaving only his thumbs, index fingers, and middle fingers on the ground. Under everyone's disbelieving gazes, he continued doing push-ups frantically, still as fast, steady, powerful, and effortless as before. Is he even human? He's already done 300 push-ups, 100 of them one-handed. One-handed push-ups at least have the palm for support, but using only 3 fingers on each hand places an immense strain on the fingers, something ordinary people simply couldn't handle, let alone someone who had already done 300 push-ups. Seeing this, Wang Hao gritted his teeth and tried to imitate Du Zhong, supporting himself on 3 fingers. But before he could even complete one push-up, Du Zhong had already finished another 100. And then, Du Zhong did something that shattered their understanding of human limits once again. He retracted one hand and began doing one-handed push-ups with only 3 fingers, at the same speed. This scene completely crushed Wang Hao's confidence. His arms gave way, and he collapsed to the ground, his eyes fixed unwaveringly on Du Zhong. The other 5 were utterly dumbfounded. In their eyes, Wang Hao's ability to do 300 push-ups in one go was already the limit of human capability. Yet, here was someone constantly redefining their understanding of what was possible. Another 100. After finishing, Du Zhong stopped. Everyone breathed a slight sigh of relief, thinking it was finally over. Second one down, the others finally reacted. Kill him, they roared, charging at Du Zhong. They were truly convinced. How could they not be, faced with such a monstrous display? But the next moment made their hearts leap into their throats again. Du Zhong retracted his middle fingers and thumbs, leaving only his index fingers on the ground, and continued doing push-ups. Everyone's hearts rose and fell with Du Zhong's movements. The scene before them had left them incapable of rational thought. Shock, nothing but shock. Is he even fucking human? Convinced. Completely convinced. Another 100 push-ups completed. 600 push-ups in 8 minutes. Only then did a slight sweat appear on Du Zhong's forehead, as if he had just warmed up. Looking at the 6 stunned men, Du Zhong waved his index finger in front of them and asked with a smile, "Convinced?" "Convinced. Convinced," they all replied in unison, their eyes following the movement of Du Zhong's index finger. They couldn't believe that such a small finger could withstand so much force. "Since you're convinced, then fall in," Du Zhong barked. Wang Hao scrambled up from the ground, and the 6 of them lined up neatly in front of Du Zhong, standing ramrod straight, their eyes filled with awe and respect. Satisfied, Du Zhong nodded. "Starting today, I'll design a training plan for each of you." He stood tall and imposing, his entire body radiating a powerful, masculine energy. "My team must be elite." His expression turned stern as he added sharply, "If anyone dares to slack off, pack your bags and get out. Of course, if you train diligently, there will be benefits." Captain Du Zhong, Wang Hao, having just recovered from his exhaustion, spoke up. "Are you saying that if we train hard, we'll get a raise?" His question made the others' eyes light up with anticipation. In the entire hospital, security guards are the lowest paid. If it weren't for the meager wages, they wouldn't have been so lazy. Come on. The blood that had been cold for over a month ignited once more in Du Zhong's veins. At this moment, he was once again the invincible military king. "If we can get a raise, I'll endure any training, no matter how tough," the group chimed in. Du Zhong snorted coldly. "Raises are my department. But if you train hard, I'll teach you how to take down an opponent with one move." The group scoffed in unison. In response, Du Zhong walked up to Wang Hao and pulled the baton hanging from his belt. "Do you know why I became your boss as soon as I arrived?" Du Zhong toyed with the baton. Everyone looked at him with disdain, assuming he had gotten the position through connections. Though he had impressive stamina, that didn't mean he was skilled. After all, being a security guard wasn't about endurance, it was about combat skills. Because of strength, Du Zhong sneered. under their scornful gazes. He gripped the baton with both hands and lightly snapped it in two. Crack! It broke. With just a casual bend, the baton snapped in half. The sight left Wang Hao and the other 5 stunned, their faces frozen in disbelief. The batons they carried were made of high-quality, high-carbon steel, the kind of hardness ordinary people couldn't possibly break so easily. Yet, Du Zhong had snapped it with a casual flick. A thug swung an iron rod fiercely at Du Zhong. Du Zhong sidestepped and delivered a whip kick, the immense force sending the thug flying. I'm truly convinced, Wang Hao muttered, dazed. The other 5 shared his shock, their faces filled with even greater admiration for Du Zhong. With skills like that, why settle for being a security captain? You could be a bodyguard and make a fortune. The 6 of them looked at Du Zhong with hopeful eyes. Du Zhong chuckled coldly. If you want to reach this level, train hard. Strength doesn't come from empty dreams, it comes from training. Only through relentless practice can you become steel. Upon hearing this, the 6 of them nodded eagerly, like chicks pecking at rice. At ease, Du Zhong commanded. Right dress. 5 kilometers to warm up. Move out. At his order, the previously lazy 6 immediately straightened up, raised their heads high, and ran out in perfect formation. Du Zhong naturally ran alongside them, observing their movements with a stern expression. As the group jogged away, a young doctor stepped through the hospital gate. He glanced at the jogging security team, then turned his gaze to Du Zhong, a mocking smile spreading across his face. "Do you his second brother?" The young doctor looked Du Zhong up and down, his lips curling into a contemptuous sneer. I wondered who it was. Turns out it's just a lowly security guard. His voice was loud enough for the entire security team to hear, even from several meters away. Du Zhong and the 6 security guards stopped and turned to look. Wu Haihua. It was the same young doctor who had vehemently opposed Du Zhong living with Gumir yesterday. Clearly, he was here to pick a fight because of that incident. Third one down. 4 thugs brandished machetes, surrounding him. Du Zhong dodged one machete, his hand blade striking the wielder's wrist. The man screamed, dropping the machete, which Du Zhong caught mid-fall. With a flick of his wrist, he executed a beautiful blade flourish, using the back of the machete to knock the other 3 blades to the ground. Another flick, and the flat of the blade struck all 4 men squarely in the chest. The threat from Wu Haihua. Do you believe that with just a few words from me, I can easily make you disappear? Wu Haihua looked at Du Zhong with an arrogant expression, a cold smirk playing on his lips. Wang Hao and the 5 other security guards were stunned. Wu Haihua was a certified doctor at the hospital, and someone with the status was not someone they could afford to provoke. Yet their captain had managed to cross him, and it seemed like no minor offense. Du Zhong didn't respond. He simply glanced at Wu Haihua and let out a soft chuckle. His calm demeanor infuriated Wu Haihua, who snapped, "You're just a lowly security guard. What right do you have to live with Mu? I don't know why Mu'er agreed to let you stay with her, but you'd better move out by today. Otherwise, don't blame me for what happens next." Wu Haihua's face darkened, his final words gritted out between his teeth. The 6 security guards were dumbfounded, their minds struggling to process what they were hearing. Did this mean their captain was living with Gu Mu'er, the most beautiful woman in the hospital? With 4 cries of pain, they flew backward, clutching their chests and unable to rise. Damn, Captain, you're something else. You haven't even been here long, and you've already won over the most stunning doctor. They couldn't help but look up to Du Zhong with newfound respect. Finished, Du Zhong asked calmly. If you're done, get lost. Don't disturb our training. His words, though spoken quietly, carried an undeniable authority that left the 6 guards in awe. Their new captain was truly formidable. He didn't even flinch in the face of Doctor. Considering his earlier display of skill, it seemed he had no reason to fear Wu Haihua. You're refusing a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Wu Haihua's expression grew even colder. Drinking, Du Zhong smiled faintly. You're not even qualified to invite me for a drink. You. Wu Haihua was so enraged he wanted to punch Du Zhong's indifferent face. But remembering how formidable Du Zhong was, he abandoned the idea and instead snarled through gritted teeth. You've got nerve? Just you wait. 7th one down. With a weapon in hand, Du Zhong exuded an even fiercer aura, like an ancient swordsman. Where his heart led, his blade followed, and the enemy fell. I don't have time for you, Du Zhong said, waving a hand as if shooing away a fly. Wu Haihua was seething. Just then, a familiar voice rang out. Wu Haihua, what are you doing? The voice made Wu Haihua freeze. His expression instantly shifted into a bright, sunny smile as he turned and said, Mu'er, you're here. The newcomer was none other than Gu Mu'er. After finishing the breakfast Du Zhong had prepared for her, she had come to work. The moment she stepped into the hospital, she saw Wu Haihua berating Du Zhong and immediately understood that he was causing trouble. Wu Haihua, please show some respect to me and my roommate. and don't hold grudges against anyone. I don't want to think of you as petty and narrow-minded. Wu Haihua's smile stiffened slightly before he replied cheerfully. Not at all, Moore. You've misunderstood. I just saw this little security guard giving such an animated briefing, so I came over to offer some encouragement. He emphasized the words little security guard and shot a pointed glance at Du Zhong. Is that so? Gu Mu'er lifted her delicate face and looked at Du Zhong. Although she was still upset with him over what had happened the previous day, she knew how to distinguish right from wrong. Wu Haihua had always struck her as a thoroughly unpleasant person. While she might have been tempted to use him to teach Du Zhong a lesson, she would never actually do such a thing. Besides, in her heart, Du Zhong was at least a good person who knew how to make breakfast. Wu Haihua, this is a hospital. You'd better not stir up trouble. Seeing that Du Zhong remained silent, Gu Mu'er felt a pang of disappointment. After issuing her warning, she turned and walked straight into the hospital building. Wow, so it's true, a love triangle. The 6th security guard were utterly stunned. It was already common knowledge that Wu Haihua was pursuing Gu Mu'er, and now their captain was involved too. This drama was getting more interesting by the minute. Go, Captain! They cheered inwardly. Slap, 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 slap. In less than 30 seconds, all 20 enemies lay on the ground, including the yellow-haired thug who had already been beaten twice in one day and now felt like dying. After watching Gu Mu'er leave with a forced smile, Wu Haihua's face darkened once again as he glared venomously at Du Zhong. You'd better get out of here fast, or I'll make you regret it. Before you threaten others, you should take care of yourself, Du Zhong retorted disdainfully. He shifted his posture as if seeing off an unwanted guest and said calmly, Be careful on your way. The words left Wu Haihua baffled. Was this guy an idiot? How dare he act so arrogantly at a time like this? After a moment of stunned silence, Wu Haihua snorted coldly and turned to leave. But he had taken only a few steps when a baton suddenly appeared under his feet. With a loud thud, he fell flat on his face in front of everyone. The humiliation was unbearable. Scrambling to his feet, his face flushed with embarrassment, Wu Haihua glanced around frantically. He immediately recalled Du Zhong's words, and his expression twisted with rage. Du Zhong did this, he snarled, turning around furiously, only to find that Du Zhong and the security guards had already returned to the security office, acting as if they hadn't seen a thing. Just you wait. Stomping his foot in anger, Wu Haihua shot a venomous glare at the security office before storming into the hospital building. Inside the security office, Wang Hao burst into hearty laughter at the sight of Wu Haihua's Long Bei embarrassing state. That was satisfying, really satisfying. I don't care who sent you. Go back and tell them. If they dare touch my family's ancestral hall again, I'll take their life. Du Zhong said expressionlessly, his tone carrying a deep chill that made everyone present tremble. No one dared doubt he meant it. The killing intent in his words was palpable. We're always the ones being bullied, but today we finally saw that high and mighty guy get his comeuppance. Honestly, I didn't understand what the captain meant at first. Amid the laughter, all eyes turned to Du Zhong. They had clearly seen him use his foot to subtly and precisely flick the baton into Wu Haihua's path, causing him to trip and fall flat on his face. The skill and accuracy left them in awe of their new captain. How much control and precision did it take to pull that off? If it had been done with his hands, it would still be impressive, but he used his foot. The level of accuracy was unimaginable. Even more impressive was that the captain had warned Wu Haihua beforehand, showing absolute confidence in his move. They couldn't help but admire him. Meanwhile, in a car parked in a lot, Old Man Sheen narrowed his eyes as he watched the scene unfold at the hospital entrance. He had witnessed everything, and when Wu Haihua tripped and fell, a faint smile appeared on his stern face. Before the smile could fade, a hurried figure caught his attention. A short, stout man emerged from a luxury car, accompanied by several others, and rushed into the hospital building. Huang Mingjin. Old Man Sheen raised an eyebrow. What was this wealthy but ruthless real estate developer doing at the hospital? After their unpleasant parting that night, Huang Mingjin had written Du Zhong off as a madman. But that very night, the unbearable pain throughout his body reminded him vividly of Du Zhong's words. As the shingles on his waist flared up, his fear grew. He spent the entire night tormented by physical and mental anguish. At daybreak, Huang Mingjin rushed to the hospital for a thorough examination. He didn't want to die. From the security office, Du Zhong watched Huang Mingjin arrive and sighed inwardly. His gaze grew even more brazen. Scram! We'll deliver the message. We will. The 20 men, as if granted amnesty, looked fearfully at Du Zhong, hastily carrying their boss away. Upon entering the hospital, Huang Mingjin headed straight to the orthopedics department. Clear out, he barked. His subordinates immediately chased all the patients waiting in line out of the hallway. Frowning and visibly agitated, Huang Mingjin strode into the examination room. "Check me now," he demanded, his face dark with anxiety. The lingering pain and Du Zhong's warning had amplified his fear. "Don't you know patients are supposed to queue?" An irritated voice came from the examination room. The speaker was Wu Haihua, the orthopedics doctor. Still seething from his earlier humiliation by Du Zhong, he now faced a patient with no manners. Wu Haihua saw this as an opportunity to vent his frustration. But when he looked up and saw Huang Mingjin and the burly bodyguards behind him, his expression instantly turned awkward. "Cue my ass. If you say another word, I'll break your leg." Huang Mingjin was even more irritable than Wu Haihua. Du Zhong had given him only 2 days to live, and now he had just 1 left. If Du Zhong's prediction turned out to be true, he wouldn't care about anyone, let alone an insignificant doctor like Wu Haihua. Most importantly, his panic was escalating. Though he refused to admit it, he had already started to believe Du Zhong's diagnosis. Wu Haihua took a deep breath, forced an awkward smile, and said, "Please follow me." Huang Mingjin was a notorious real estate developer with significant influence in the city. Wu Haihua recognized him immediately, which was why he had changed his attitude so quickly. He knew better than to provoke such a powerful figure. Watching their retreating figures, Du Zhong felt the surging battle spirit within him and couldn't help but smile wryly. That had just been a warm-up. He hadn't even used his full strength. But this was the city. Where would he get the chance to unleash it? After politely inquiring about the examination, Wu Haihua personally escorted Huang Mingjin to various checkup rooms. A long examination later, Huang Mingjin emerged. In the examination room, Wu Haihua held a report that clearly stated, "Advanced stage bone cancer. You black-hearted scoundrel. You don't have long to live either." The diagnosis brought Wu Haihua a sense of schadenfreude. He's a dead man walking. Let him have his moment, Wu Haihua thought coldly. Huang Mingjin had been handed a death sentence, and there was no saving him. Given Huang Mingjin's background, he might cause trouble, which could reflect poorly on Wu Haihua. "Threaten me, will you? Go home and suffer until you die." Wu Haihua cursed inwardly with satisfaction before plastering a friendly smile on his face and stepping out. "Well?" Huang Mingjin asked, his face still dark as he stared at Wu Haihua. "Nothing serious," Wu Haihua replied politely. "You just have a bit of osteoporosis. I'll prescribe some calcium supplements. Take them regularly, and you'll gradually improve." Hearing this, the gloom on Huang Mingjin's face vanished instantly. He suddenly felt reinvigorated, as if the pain had disappeared. "Huh, I'm blessed with good fortune. How could I believe that lunatic's nonsense?" Overjoyed, Huang Mingjin laughed heartily, shook Wu Haihua's hand, and handed the prescription to his subordinate with satisfaction before leaving the hospital. "Umph, how dare you threaten me?" Wu Haihua snorted coldly and tore up the medical records Huang Mingjin had left behind. He then deleted all examination records. Even if Huang Mingjin came back later, there would be no evidence to hold against him. "Wow, second brother, you're amazing. You were so cool just now," Du Yuha exclaimed excitedly, running over with a pleading look. "Teach me, please." At the entrance of the security office, Du Zhong frowned as he watched Huang Mingjin leave the hospital in high spirits. "I'm still a soldier. This guy, how can he be so happy even when he's about to die? Could it be that the test results didn't show anything? That shouldn't be the case." Just as Du Zhong was puzzled, the phone in his trouser pocket suddenly rang. Picking it up, he saw the name Crocodile displayed on the screen, which made him freeze for a moment. Crocodile, Du Zhong's comrade from the Special Forces, whose real name was Yang Zihao. Because his name was similar to the living fossil, unique to the country, the Chinese alligator, he earned the nickname Crocodile. Of course, the name also represented Yang Zihao's ferocity. Unfortunately, even Crocodile, known for his fierceness in the Special Forces, couldn't escape the fate of being hunted. During one mission, Du Zhong witnessed a grenade explode right at Crocodile's feet. From that day on, Crocodile lost both his legs. Not long after, he was discharged from the military. "Is this Du Zhong?" Du Zhong quickly answered the call, and a slightly anxious female voice came from the other end. "It's me." Du Zhong frowned slightly and hurriedly replied, "I'm your sister-in-law, Yang Zihao's wife." The woman's voice immediately became somewhat hesitant. "This time we've kicked an iron plate." "Hello, sister-in-law. Is something wrong? How is Brother Hao?" Du Zhong's heart sank as he began to guess what might have happened. If nothing was wrong, Crocodile, with a strong personality, would never have called him. It couldn't be just to catch up, and even less likely that he'd have his wife call. "Well, he's fine." The woman's voice grew even more hesitant, as if she had something difficult to say. Du Zhong immediately sensed something was wrong and asked urgently, "Sister-in-law, Are you facing some kind of difficulty? As soon as he finished speaking, a sob came from the other end of the line. Whoa. Sister-in-law. Just as Du Zhong was about to comfort her, an angry roar suddenly erupted from the other end. Why are you calling Zongzi? We should solve our own problems and not bother him. Zongzi has his own things to do. Du Zhong's heart tightened. There was definitely something wrong. Otherwise, sister-in-law wouldn't have called him behind Crocodile's back. And, judging by Crocodile's tone, the problem they were facing was likely serious. After the scolding, Crocodile snatched the phone and let out a hearty laugh. Great, no problem. Du Zhong agreed without hesitation. Zongzi, everything's fine here. Don't listen to your sister-in-law's nonsense. Crocodile's voice was as bold as ever. I heard you've been discharged. Come have a drink with me when you have time. Du Zhong gritted his teeth, his fist clenching tightly. Crocodile, if there's something wrong, just say it. What problems could I have? Even if there were, couldn't I handle them? Don't forget, I'm Crocodile, the fierce crocodile, huh? The hearty laughter carried an inexplicable sorrow, and Du Zhong could no longer hold back. Crocodile, do you still fucking consider me your brother or not? If you're in trouble, just say it. The usually calm Du Zhong suddenly shouted, his dark eyes glistening with unshed tears. Crocodile fell silent. Is it a financial problem? Du Zhong asked directly. A long sigh came from the other end, followed by a low voice. It's nothing, no need. Before he could finish, the phone was snatched away again. What do you mean, nothing? The two kids need to go to school, but we don't have the money to send them. And the children, your other comrades, are all at school age, and none of them can afford the tuition. They didn't dare to call you, afraid of bothering you. Before she could finish, sister-in-law began sobbing again. Yay! Du Yu had cheered and jumped up, but then her expression fell as she remembered something. Hearing this, Du Zhong's nose stung with emotion. His comrades, who had fought alongside him through life and death, the heroes who had once defended the nation, had fallen into such dire straits. They had their own pride and were unwilling to bow their heads. But he was their brother, someone they'd faced death with. Why couldn't they share their difficulties with him? Why did they have to hide it from him? Sister-in-law, tell me, how much money do you need? I'll find a way, Du Zhong said immediately. Tuition for 10 children would cost at least 40 or 50,000. If we weren't truly desperate, I wouldn't have reached out to you. We really have no other options left. None at all. Sister-in-law's sobbing voice carried a hint of guilt. Understand, sister-in-law. Don't worry, I'll handle this. I promise to send the money within 10 days. Du Zhong said resolutely. When Crocodile took the phone again, Du Zhong forced back the lump in his throat and put on a cheerful tone. Brother, wait for me to come back. I'll definitely have a drink with you. Suddenly, a choked, hurried sound came from the other end. Crocodile was crying. The fierce crocodile, who had once roamed the battlefield, was crying, desolate and aggrieved. Even in a wheelchair, I'm still a soldier. Crocodile roared through his tears before hanging up. Staring at the phone, Du Zhong took a deep breath and looked up. Under the sunlight, his eyes were filled with uncontrollable tears. Suppressing the ache in his heart, he inhaled deeply. I can't learn anymore. Tomorrow is my last day of internship at the hospital, and I have to go back to school the day after. I don't have time to learn from you. Suddenly, he felt a new weight on his shoulders, a responsibility to ensure that his brothers, who had faced life and death with him, could live a better life. Besides them, there was also Tang Yuan, who remained unconscious. Brothers, whether on the battlefield or in this silent struggle, I will never abandon you. Because we are brothers. Du Zhong clenched his fists, his eyes filled with unwavering determination. 40 or 50,000 was no small amount for Du Zhong at the moment. When he was discharged, he had sent all his severance pay to the families of some disabled comrades. Now he had no money left. Having been a special forces soldier for so many years, Du Zhong, with his mature mindset, naturally wouldn't consider asking his family for money. He was an adult, and it simply wasn't appropriate to rely on them. But how could he earn 40,000 in just 10 days? Du Zhong fell deep into thought. Meanwhile, in the wealthy district of Kaiyuan City, inside a villa, Huang Mingjin lay happily on the luxurious sofa in the hall, opening a bottle of calcium tablets. Oomph. It doesn't hurt at all now. Last night was just psychological. I actually let a young guy scare me. How ridiculous. Just as he poured out the tablets and was about to take them, his expression suddenly changed. A piercing pain spread from his waist, quickly engulfing his entire body. The bone-deep agony made Huang Mingjin feel as if he were suffocating. It hurts. He felt his life slipping away, as if he might die at any moment. In the midst of the excruciating pain, Huang Mingjin suddenly recalled Du Zhong's words, and his face turned deathly pale. It's fine. I'll teach you whenever you have time. Am I really going to die? Trembling, he picked up the phone and dialed 120. Soon, Huang Mingjin, writhing in agony, was loaded into an ambulance. "Do doctor." In the affiliated hospital, in the intensive care unit, Huang Mingjin lay on the stark white hospital bed. His terrifyingly pale face was covered in a layer of sweat, the horrifying pain making it difficult for him even to speak. "Mr. Huang, your test results are out. Please prepare yourself." An elderly doctor in a white coat and glasses approached Huang Mingjin's bedside. "What the hell is wrong with me?" Huang Mingjin tried to lift his arm, but as soon as he moved, it fell limply to his side, as if he lacked even the strength to support it. "Your test results show." The elderly doctor's face twitched slightly, and he sighed before continuing, "Late-stage bone cancer. You have less than a month to live." The entire room fell into a deathly silence. Lying on the bed, Huang Mingjin's pupils contracted sharply, his gaze fixed blankly on the doctor. A tear unconsciously trickled from the corner of his eye. "Okay, do you have said happily? Am I going to die?" Huang Mingjin's mind repeated this question over and over, his thoughts blank. Late-stage bone cancer. This incurable disease, no matter how much money was spent, filled the once powerful Huang Mingjin with despair. A sense of helplessness washed over him. Was there really no hope? Am I really going to die? I sacrificed so much, but what's the use of all this money now? I'm going to die. I'm fucking going to die. Huang Mingjin's entire body trembled slightly. No, there's still a chance. I still have a chance. Suddenly, Huang Mingjin mustered a surge of strength from somewhere. He sat bolt upright, as if forgetting all the pain, and frantically pulled out his phone, fearfully dialing a number. "Zhang Han, contact that madman right now. Now, immediately, right away." As soon as the call connected, Huang Mingjin shouted. But then, as if reconsidering, he shook his head wildly and said, "No, it's the master. Contact that master right now. For me now. Immediately. Right away." As soon as he finished speaking, the pain throughout his body surged back. Huang Mingjin went limp and collapsed onto the hospital bed. On the other end, Zhang Han was utterly confused. Madman? Master? Could Huang Mingjin be referring to that god of death? After thinking for a moment, Zhang Han dialed Du Zhong's number. Together with his younger sister, Du Zhong spent the afternoon cleaning the Du family ancestral hall inside and out, the time passing amid laughter and joy. Receiving Zhang Han's call, Du Zhong, who had been worrying, frowned. After informing Wang Hao and the others, he headed straight into the hospital building. Just as Du Zhong stepped into the hospital, a group of people rushed in from outside, brushing past him. Surprisingly, Du Zhong and these people ended up in Huang Mingjin's room at the same time. They turned out to be Huang Mingjin's family. "I told you to stop doing wicked things, but you never listened. Now look what's happened." As soon as Du Zhong entered the room, he saw an old man who bore some resemblance to Huang Mingjin, tears in his eyes, pointing at Huang Mingjin and scolding him angrily. "My son." Beside the old man, an elderly woman wept bitterly, stumbling a few steps before collapsing on a Huang Mingjin's bed. "How could this happen? How could this happen?" On the other side, Huang Mingjin's elegantly dressed wife shook her head in disbelief, as if trying to convince herself that everything before her was an illusion. In an instant, the entire room felt like a funeral parlor. Cries and wails filled the air. "What's going on?" A familiar figure emerged from the crowd and approached the elderly doctor in the room. It was Gu Muir, just diagnosed. Late-stage bone cancer. The elderly doctor shook his head, sighed, and prepared to leave. Hearing this, Gu Muir also shook her head with a sigh. Although she came from a family of traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, there was simply no hope of curing such a terminal illness. All that remained was a sigh of regret. Du Zhong would never forget the scene from a month ago. On his final mission before retiring from the military, his close comrade of 6 years, Tang Yuan, took a fatal bullet for him. He even saw Tang Yuan smiling at him the moment he fell, as if saying, "Brother, go home safely, have a safe journey." Enraged, Du Zhong killed all the enemies. Though the enemies were dead, Tang Yuan had become a vegetable. No medical treatment could wake him. Without a miracle, the man who had once struck fear into the enemy would lie in bed like a dead man for the rest of his life. By evening, Du Zhong saw his sister off and returned alone to the ancestral hall. However, Huang Mingjin's continuously arriving friends and relatives had crowded the room so much that no one could leave. After what felt like an eternity, the endless weeping and wailing finally subsided. On the hospital bed, Huang Mingjin's face was already soaked with tears. Observing the scene in the room, Du Zhong nodded quietly to himself. This sudden tragedy seemed to have given Huang Mingjin a sense of remorse. If he could genuinely repent, saving him might not be entirely impossible. With this thought, Du Zhong pushed through the crowd and squeezed into the room. "What are you doing here?" Seeing Du Zhong, Gumu'er frowned and asked. The charlatan Du Zhong. It's not that I wanted to come. He called me here. Du Zhong shrugged and pointed at Huang Mingjin. Him. Gumu'er was taken aback. Master, you've come? On the hospital bed, Huang Mingjin struggled excitedly, trying to sit up. He wasn't sure if the developers would dare to return, but tonight he intended to make sure they wouldn't dare come again. Du Zhong nodded. Huang Mingjin's words instantly drew everyone's attention to Du Zhong. Master, Gumu'er widened her bright, watery eyes, scrutinizing Du Zhong from head to toe. Did this guy look anything like a master? He was nothing but a brute. You beast! You're already in this state, and you're still thinking about superstitions? What master? It was these so-called masters who got you into this mess. Why do you still believe in this? Huang Mingjin's father was furious, glaring at his son before turning his anger toward Du Zhong and roaring, I've seen plenty of charlatans like you. Get out of here. Right? Make him leave. Coming here to scam money at a time like this. Du Zhong was also taken aback by the situation. It was just a dying man's form of address. Why had it provoked such a strong reaction? He didn't know that Huang Mingjin had never been short of so-called masters around him, and he had always obeyed them unquestioningly, disrupting the family's peace. Seeing that everyone was about to verbally attack him, Du Zhong frowned and coldly shouted, Silence. Everyone was stunned. This guy is quite the presence. Gumu'er muttered to herself, her gaze unconsciously lingering on Du Zhong's resolute face. Who do you think you are, you charlatan? Get out of here. At that moment, Huang Mingjin's father snapped back to reality and berated Du Zhong again. Even if they had the nerve, no one would take the job. Could you stop embarrassing us here? Huang Mingjin's wife walked over, her tear-streaked face pale, her expression eerily calm. My husband is already like this. Could you please stop scamming him? As she spoke, she seemed to finally break down, sobbing loudly. How much money do you want? I'll give it to you, okay? I beg you, leave this place. Don't disturb my husband anymore, please. After saying this, she crouched down, hugging her head and weeping bitterly, her face full of despair. Du Zhong's expression tightened, filled with helplessness, but his face remained cold. Who would have thought that a single form of address from Huang Mingjin could cause such a strong reaction? And from the looks of it, they had indeed encountered plenty of those so-called masters around Huang Mingjin. Aren't you going to leave? Seeing this, Gumu'er quietly tugged at Du Zhong's sleeve and whispered. Du Zhong shook his head. Since he was already here, how could he leave? Leaving now would only confirm that he was a charlatan. Du Zhong wasn't about to do something so foolish. See? These are the loved ones you've wronged. Look how heartbroken they are for you. Do you see now? What use is all the money you wanted at a time like this? Du Zhong stared coldly at Huang Mingjin. Everyone get out. At that moment, Huang Mingjin finally managed to sit up, seemingly forgetting his pain, and got out of bed to stand before Du Zhong. Everyone was astonished. Under Huang Mingjin's urging, the relatives and friends crowded around the ward slowly filed out. He doesn't have many days left. Just humor him. At a time like this, perhaps only this charlatan can calm him down. The elderly doctor shook his head, speaking softly to Huang Mingjin's family before turning to Du Zhong with a look of disdain. What are you really here for? Gumu'er asked Du Zhong after everyone had left. Tonight, he planned to sweep through all the underground forces in the area single-handedly. To save his life, if it's possible, Du Zhong replied sincerely. Save his life? Are you joking? Are you a doctor? Do you even know what illness he has? How dare you talk about saving his life without knowing? Gumu'er looked at Du Zhong incredulously, thinking he had lost his mind. I know he won't live past tomorrow, but today, there might be a miracle, Du Zhong said firmly. I think you're insane. Seeing that Du Zhong was unyielding, Gumu'er angrily turned and left the ward. Soon, only Du Zhong and Huang Mingjin's family of 4 remained in the ward. Perhaps they had come to terms with it, as Huang Mingjin's parents and wife no longer targeted Du Zhong. When a person is nearing death, it's best to humor their wishes. Master, Huang Mingjin trembled as he spoke, his tone self-mocking. You're right. Ending up like this is entirely my own fault. I'm no master, Du Zhong denied, then added, it's no use calling me here. Whether you can be saved depends on you, not me. You need to understand that. If Huang Mingjin was genuinely repentant, there might still be hope. But if he only wanted Du Zhong to save his life, Du Zhong was sorry. He couldn't do that. I know. The moment I learned the outcome, I understood everything. I don't dare hope to live. For money, I gave up so much. I was wrong. Wrong is wrong. And this mistake must end now. Huang Mingjin smiled faintly, a smile of both relief and self-mockery. But before that, he needed to call his grandfather and tell him that he had received the inheritance. He dragged his short, stout body to his parents and knelt heavily before them. Mom, Dad, I know I was wrong. Kneeling on the ground, Huang Mingjin wept. Your son can no longer fulfill his filial duties in this life. If there's a next life, I will be your son again and take good care of you. Asterisk thud, thud, thud. Asterisk as he spoke, he kowtowed heavily several times, the force shaking the floor. My poor son. Huang Mingjin's parents hurried forward to help him up. The elderly couple wept uncontrollably, only able to nod repeatedly, unable to speak. Then, Huang Mingjin stood and faced his wife, reaching out to stroke her pale face. Thump! The couple knelt almost simultaneously. Wife, I was wrong. Huang Mingjin's lips trembled as he spoke. Don't say anything. I know, I understand everything. The two embraced tightly. At that moment, Du Zhong felt a warm energy rising from deep within him, slowly enveloping his entire body. You've really received the inheritance? The sound of a teacup shattering came from the other end of the phone, and Du Zhong's grandfather asked, his voice trembling. Seeing this, Du Zhong smiled faintly. This was the power of genuine repentance. Repentance had opened a window to the positive energy within him, and this energy was the key to curing his illness. Without true repentance, this energy could never have emerged. But having this energy alone was not enough. It needed to be guided by the energy hand seals of ancient medicine to completely eradicate the disease. Now, this person could be saved. Now, I can help you, but I need you all to leave. Du Zhong glanced around the room and spoke directly. Really? Huang Mingjin's face lit up with excitement. You charlatan, what are you trying to do now? Huang Mingjin's father immediately flared up, his beard bristling. How dare you still try to deceive my son at a time like this? Mom, Dad, wife, please leave first. At that moment, a pained smile appeared on Huang Mingjin's pale face. This is my final wish. His voice was hoarse. Though he was near death, the shrewdness of a businessman told him that persuasion was useless now. The only way was to make a direct request without explanation. Hearing this, Huang Mingjin's parents and wife fell silent, speechless. They stared at Huang Mingjin, and only after he nodded did they reluctantly leave the ward, their faces full of sorrow. He was about to die. They might as well grant him his final wish. Du Zhong could imagine how excited his grandfather, as the head of the Du family, must be. Lie back down and close your eyes. After everyone had left, Du Zhong locked the door and spoke in a commanding tone. Huang Mingjin smiled faintly. He no longer fully believed Du Zhong could save him. Or perhaps he had already come to terms with life and death. At this moment, he felt incredibly lighthearted. The guilt that had weighed on him for so many years had finally been released. It was enough. Even if he died now, it would be enough. Huang Mingjin lay back on the hospital bed and closed his eyes. Standing by the bed, Du Zhong took a deep breath, his expression turning serious. Outside the ward, the crowd grew larger. In addition to Huang Mingjin's relatives, many doctors who had heard the news had also gathered. Who would have thought the new security captain is actually a charlatan? I mean, he has no sense of judgment. Of all people, he had to pick a terminal bone cancer patient. I think this time, he's not only going to lose his job, but might even drag the hospital down with him. Outside the ward, a group of nurses gathered, chattering and gossiping. Every word reached Gu Muir's ears. Her expression grew tense, and she clenched her fists, silently cheering for Du Zhong. She had matters to attend to in her own department, but she stayed to see if Du Zhong could truly perform a miracle. Though reason told her it was impossible, she couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope. 500 years. The Du family had sought and hoped for this for 500 years, and finally, someone had regained the inheritance. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The clock hands moved. Du Zhong stood by the bed, watching Huang Mingjin, whose face was serene, as if he had already let go of worldly concerns. That night, he had already discerned the cause of Huang Mingjin's illness. Since he knew the cause, he could naturally find a treatment. The only method was the energy hand seals of ancient medicine. I'll ease your pain first. Rest peacefully and sleep. Du Zhong spoke. This was his first time using ancient medicine, and he didn't want Huang Mingjin's consciousness to cause any unnecessary complications. With that, Du Zhong took Huang Mingjin's hand. Pressure points. For any pain in the body, there's a corresponding pressure point on the fingers. Huang Mingjin's pain was caused by shingles on his waist, so the pressure point should be on his middle finger. After locating the pressure point, Du Zhong pressed firmly several times. A minute later, Huang Mingjin felt the pain in his body lessen significantly, and he relaxed completely. Soon, soft snores could be heard. At that moment, Du Zhong's mind was exceptionally calm. The miraculous energy madra, whether for bone cancer or shingles, is a form of toxin. To save Huang Mingjin, the first step is to expel the toxins from his body. Good, good, good. After confirming the answer, Du Zhong's grandfather excitedly repeated the word good 3 times, his voice choked with tears, clearly overcome with joy. Du Zhong took a deep breath, narrowed his eyes, a glint flashing in his gaze as his hands moved swiftly. His middle fingers bent instantly, followed by his ring fingers, and then his thumbs pressed against the two fingers, forming the detoxifying energy mudra with both hands. This mudra could awaken the wood element energy within the liver and gallbladder, playing a powerful role in purifying the body. It brought pure, calm, internal balance, and harmonious positive energy. Its strongest function was detoxification, capable of expelling all toxins from the body. All of this was recorded in the ancient medical heritage Du Zhong had acquired. Exchange the wooden mechanism for answers. Seek the path and exert effort. Success will come sooner or later. Du Zhong focused his gaze, chanting a low-energy mantra. This mantra and the mudra had to be perfectly coordinated, and during execution, the mind and consciousness had to be highly unified, consuming immense mental energy. Suddenly, he lowered his hands, the raised index and little fingers of the mudra, simultaneously pressing against Huang Mingjin's waist. At the moment of contact, Du Zhong felt a surge of peaceful energy from the world around him flow into his body, like a rushing stream, circling within him before fiercely pouring into Huang Mingjin's body through his fingers. Once inside, this energy immediately merged with Huang Mingjin's positive energy, the two complementing each other. Under the influence of these two energies, a layer of gloomy gray mist gradually enveloped Huang Mingjin's body. To save Huang Mingjin, relying solely on the energy Du Zhong added or the energy stimulated from within Huang Mingjin was insufficient. Both were necessary for Huang Mingjin to have any hope of survival. As the two energies continuously interacted, the gloomy gray mist above Huang Mingjin's body grew denser over time. This was the carcinogenic yin substance being expelled. Once his grandfather had calmed down, Du Zhong raised his doubts. Slowly, Du Zhong's fingers began to tremble slightly, and sweat beaded on his forehead. Exerting such energy was extremely draining on mental strength, but Du Zhong persisted. 10 minutes later, a sharp gleam burst from Du Zhong's weary eyes. The gloomy gray mist had reached its peak density. This was the moment. Du Zhong let out a sharp exhalation, and the entire mist instantly condensed before rapidly dissipating into the air. A weak smile finally appeared at the corner of Du Zhong's lips. His mental energy could no longer sustain him, and he staggered backward, nearly collapsing to the ground, his face pale. It was done. Phew! Letting out a long breath, Du Zhong wiped the sweat from his forehead, opened the window, and, after 5 minutes, opened the door. Seeing the door open, Huang Mingjin's parents rushed in immediately, almost knocking the weakened Du Zhong over. Shaking his head with a faint smile, Du Zhong walked out of the ward. "How is it?" Seeing Du Zhong emerge, Gumyur hurried forward to ask. "It should be done." Du Zhong grinned, brushing past Gumyur as he left the building. This was a habit left from his missions. If trouble was likely to follow, he would quickly leave the scene. Once others knew Huang Mingjin had recovered, it would be hard for him to get away. Recovered? Staring at Du Zhong's exhausted figure, Gumyur was stunned. Had he really done it? Du Zhong didn't believe in miracles. He believed only in himself. So, despite all his superiors' persuasions, he resolutely retired and returned home to inherit his family's medical arts, searching for a way to revive Tang Yuan. And now, hope was right before his eyes. Was he only supposed to treat spiritual ailments? What about physical illnesses? Just then, a loud shout snapped her back to reality. "Doctor, doctor!" Huang Mingjin's mother rushed out of the ward, wiping tears as she cried. "Come quickly, my son was just talking to me, but now he's not moving." The crowd gathered outside the ward quickly made way. What happened? Startled, Gumyur stepped forward and entered the ward with an elderly doctor who had hurried over. "Will my son never wake up again?" Huang Mingjin's father asked, his voice trembling as he approached the bed. "Doctor, you must save my son. I beg you." Huang Mingjin's mother grabbed the elderly doctor's arm, weeping bitterly. Huang Mingjin's wife sat calmly by the bed, tears streaming down her face. "Don't panic just yet," the elderly doctor reassured them, then stepped to the bedside, lifting Huang Mingjin's eyelid with his finger before checking his pulse. As time passed, the elderly doctor's expression shifted repeatedly. "How is it?" Gumyur asked urgently. "Strange." The elderly doctor shook his head. Logically, his pupils should have constricted slightly, and his pulse should be weakening. Hearing this, Gumyur paused, then repeated the elderly doctor's actions herself. He didn't know the traditional methods of diagnosis like observation, listening, questioning, and pulse-taking. How is this possible? Gumyur's eyes widened in disbelief. His pupils are clear, his pulse is stable. He shows no signs of critical illness. The elderly doctor was equally shocked. Could it be him? Did he really? The image of Du Zhong's exhausted face as he left suddenly surfaced in Gu Mir's mind. Impossible. The elderly doctor flatly denied. Let's check again. Gu Mir insisted. The elderly doctor nodded. Under everyone's watchful eyes, they wheeled Huang Mingjin, bed and all, into the examination room. When the examination room door opened again, both Gu Mir and the elderly doctor wore expressions of astonishment. Doctor, how is my son? Huang Mingjin's mother stepped forward to ask. The elderly doctor smiled wryly, shaking his head in self-mockery. Perhaps we've all misjudged him. With that, he handed an examination report to Huang Mingjin's mother. I knew he wasn't a charlatan. Thinking of Du Zhong, Gu Mir couldn't help but smile inwardly. What shocked her more was how Du Zhong had managed it. This was advanced bone cancer. Recalling the calm expression on his face before he left, her curiosity grew even stronger. Who was this guy? What was his background? So strong, so skilled in martial arts, and now he could even perform miracles. Du Zhong's grandfather hadn't anticipated this situation. What do you mean? Huang Mingjin's father asked urgently. His illness is completely cured. Right now, he's no different from a healthy person. The elderly doctor seemed unable to believe the words coming from his own mouth. He had personally conducted both of Huang Mingjin's examinations. Less than an hour had passed between the two checks, yet the results had reversed in an impossible way. It was a miracle, and the one who had performed it seemed to be the hospital security guard everyone had dismissed as a charlatan. What? Doctor, are you serious? At the doctor's words, the entire corridor fell into a dead silence. A cry of joy and relief came from Huang Mingjin's wife. That's right. The elderly doctor nodded firmly. I don't know how this happened. Perhaps only that young man from earlier would know. His words made everyone turn to look down the empty hallway. There, it seemed, lingered the faint shadow of that exhausted figure who had quietly slipped away. After leaving the building, Du Zhong went to the security office to give a brief update, then returned directly to his residence, collapsing into bed exhausted. It was his first time performing the energy madra, and it had completely drained his mental energy. Ancient medicine was no joke. He slept until noon the next day. After resting, all his fatigue vanished, and his mental energy was restored. After washing up, Du Zhong found a note on the coffee table. Picking it up, his eyes fell on the few lines written there. Dr. Du, I prepared breakfast and left it in the fridge. Heat it up when you wake up. Consider it repayment for the breakfast you made me yesterday. Don't worry about the hospital. I've already asked for leave on your behalf. Reading the concise lines, Du Zhong smiled faintly, a strange emotion stirring in his heart. Over the years, all he had experienced was the brutality of battle and the iron-in-blood camaraderie among comrades. This was the first time he had felt care from a woman, and a beautiful one at that. This feeling isn't bad, Du Zhong savored the thought. He then heated up the breakfast Gu Mir had left and devoured it like a starved wolf. The 500-year gap had left even the head of the Du family unaware of the specifics of the inheritance. Not bad at all. This beauty has some skills. After cleaning up, Du Zhong didn't stay home, but went straight to the hospital. For him, discipline was paramount. Even though Gu Mir had arranged leave for him, since he had promised Old Man Qin and was now physically recovered, he had to shoulder his responsibilities. Wang Hao, Du Zhong called out sternly as he approached the security office. Immediately, Wang Hao scurried out. Seeing Du Zhong, he was taken aback. Captain, weren't you on leave today? Have you been following the training plan I set for you? Du Zhong asked coldly. Yes. Wang Hao nodded earnestly. Just then, all the security guards emerged from the office. Scanning them, Du Zhong noticed that except for Wang Hao, the others were still drenched in sweat. He nodded in satisfaction. Good, Du Zhong said solemnly. From now on, when I'm not here, you'll lead the training and report the results to me regularly. Yes, sir. Wang Hao straightened up, responding with a semblance of formality. Du Zhong nodded in approval. At that moment, the roar of engines echoed from a distance. Turning to look, they saw a line of luxury cars, each worth millions, driving into the hospital under the stunned gazes of everyone. Previous inheritors hadn't learned observation, listening, questioning, and pulse-taking because they only needed to treat spiritual ailments. Wow, did some big shot come to the hospital to get married? That's insane, Wang Hao exclaimed in awe. Du Zhong, however, wasn't marveling. He had already spotted Huang Mingjin in the second car. What was he doing here with such a grand entourage? Du Zhong wondered. Don't get your hopes up. Boss-level figures like that are way out of our league. We can only look, never touch, one guard sneered at Wang Hao. Sigh, if only we could get connected with someone like that. We'd be set for life. Wang Hao shook his head regretfully. For them, such influential people might as well be from another world, even if they stood right in front of them. Wishful thinking. No sooner had Wang Hao spoken than a mocking voice cut in. Du Zhong curled his lip and turned to see Wu Haihua, who had just entered the hospital gates, sneering at them. Please accept this 1 million. A security guard is just a security guard. Stop dreaming of turning into a phoenix by climbing a high branch. Wu Haihua looked at Du Zhong with contempt, as if his words were aimed solely at him. In response, Du Zhong simply shook his head and smiled. Seeing Du Zhong's dismissive attitude, Wu Haihua felt a surge of anger rising within him. In response, Du Zhong simply shook his head and smiled. Seeing Du Zhong's dismissive attitude, Wu Haihua felt a surge of anger rising within him. Just then, a motorcade came to a halt. The car doors opened, and everyone stepped out. Leading the group was Huang Mingjin, dressed in formal attire and holding a red and yellow banner. He led the crowd toward the security office. 500 years ago, society was simpler, and people believed in such methods. Huang Mingjin. Wu Haihua was taken aback. It was the same Huang Mingjin he had treated yesterday. What was he doing here with such a grand display? Noticing the banner in Huang Mingjin's hand, Wu Haihua's confusion quickly turned to delight. He thought to himself, this guy must still be in the dark. Probably, after taking a few calcium tablets, his pain subsided, and now he's here to present me with a banner of gratitude. But could calcium tablets really have such an effect? Huang Mingjin was puzzled. Still, since he was the only one who had treated Huang Mingjin yesterday, the banner could only be meant for him. The more Wu Haihua thought about it, the more convinced he became, and his demeanor grew increasingly arrogant. He had been away on business yesterday afternoon and had no idea what had happened at the hospital. Look, only doctors get the honor of receiving banners. Security guards? They're just gatekeepers. Wu Haihua's words immediately angered Wang Hao and the others, who glared at him in unison. Wu Haihua's words immediately angered Wang Hao and the others, who glared at him in unison. Yes, it's for a doctor, but not for you, Wang Hao retorted coldly. Wu Haihua cast a disdainful glance at Wang Hao and said haughtily, if not for me, then for whom? With that, he puffed out his chest and strode forward, as if ready to accept the banner. Are you the doctor who examined me yesterday? Huang Mingjin frowned as Wu Haihua approached, his voice icy. That's right, it's me, Wu Haihua. Wu Haihua replied proudly, assuming an air of nonchalance that somewhat resembled the legendary masters of old. Get him! Huang Mingjin's face instantly turned frosty, and he barked the order. A group of bodyguards immediately surrounded Wu Haihua. Wu Haihua stood frozen in place. This wasn't a gesture of gratitude. A sudden realization struck him, and his face paled. Did Huang Mingjin find out he had late-stage bone cancer? This was bad. Very bad. Terrified, Wu Haihua stumbled backward, but in an instant, he was encircled by the bodyguards. Just as they were about to lay into him, a voice that sounded like music to his ears interrupted. It was even publicly supported by the royal family. Stop! It was Du Zhong. Stop immediately! Huang Mingjin shouted, and the bodyguards quickly backed off. Sort out your grievances on your own, but this is a hospital, and I'm responsible for security here. Don't make things difficult for me, Du Zhong said. My apologies, my apologies. I wasn't thinking, Huang Mingjin immediately replied, nodding. He then turned to Wu Haihua, who was pale with fear, and said coldly, Today, I'll spare you out of respect for my benefactor. Consider yourself lucky. But if we meet elsewhere another day, we'll settle this properly. Wu Haihua was stunned by Huang Mingjin's attitude toward Du Zhong, and even more shocked by his words. Benefactor? What benefactor? He glanced around, but saw no one else except the security team. Wait, could it be? Du Zhong was Huang Mingjin's benefactor? Wu Haihua stared intently at Du Zhong, unable to believe his own conclusion. At that moment, Huang Mingjin bowed deeply to Du Zhong. Mr. Du, I came today specifically to thank you for saving my life and my soul. As he spoke, he unfurled the banner, revealing the words miraculous healing, embroidered in gold. You are like a second parent to me, Huang Mingjin said with utmost sincerity, bowing again and extending the banner toward Du Zhong. Du Zhong frowned slightly at the banner. He wasn't a doctor, so receiving such a token felt inappropriate. It was just a small effort. There's no need to take it to heart, he said, reaching out to steady Huang Mingjin without accepting the banner. This scene left Wu Haihua utterly bewildered. What was going on? What had happened after he left yesterday? Why was Huang Mingjin showing such respect to a mere security guard? And why was he presenting him with a banner? Wu Haihua never imagined that Du Zhong had cured Huang Mingjin's bone cancer. Even if he heard Huang Mingjin refer to Du Zhong as a savior, he wouldn't make the connection. After all, bone cancer was incurable. The more Wu Haihua thought about it, the more confused he became. When he looked at Du Zhong, he saw Wang Hao and the other security guards sneering at him. Remembering his earlier arrogance, Wu Haihua felt his face burn with shame, and his resentment toward Du Zhong grew. Ever since Du Zhong had appeared, nothing had gone right for him. He had to find a way to put Du Zhong in his place. Seeing that Du Zhong hadn't accepted the banner, Huang Mingjin wasn't offended. Instead, he raised a hand to the sky and vowed solemnly, "Mr. Du, my life is yours from now on. Whatever you ask, if I dare refuse, may I be struck by lightning." According to records, he hadn't made Du Zhong study modern traditional medicine, partly to avoid interfering with Du Zhong's spiritual roots. "You saved yourself. I merely provided some assistance. Your sincere repentance made saving you the right thing to do. There's no need to dwell on it," Du Zhong said earnestly. Huang Mingjin shook his head, disagreeing. "To you, saving my life might have been a small act. But to me, this great kindness cannot go unacknowledged. You must accept this card." He pulled a bank card from his pocket and handed it over. "There's 1 million in here. It may not compare to the value of a life, but it's a token of my gratitude. If you don't take it, I'll carry this guilt for the rest of my life." Du Zhong frowned slightly as he looked at the card. He was in desperate need of money. His comrades' children were counting on him to help with their tuition fees. But he vividly recalled a strict rule from his inheritance. This art can save lives or take them. Those who inherit it must never greedily seek gain. The ancient medical arts were a way to defy fate, and using them for good or ill would deplete one's virtue. Thus, one had to make amends. In simple terms, any money earned through these arts could only be kept as 1/5, with the rest donated to virtuous causes to repay the cosmic debt and express gratitude for the Du family's unique inheritance. 1/5, 20,000, would suffice. Without further hesitation, Du Zhong accepted the money. For Huang Mingjin, it was a small sum, but for Du Zhong, it was urgently needed. Seeing Du Zhong take the card, Huang Mingjin breathed a sigh of relief. After expressing his gratitude once more, he and his luxury car entourage departed. From the moment Huang Mingjin produced the bank card, Wu Haihua couldn't take his eyes off it. 1 million. It was 1 million. A deep sense of jealousy welled up inside him. He felt that the money should have been his, not some lowly security guards. He also regretted not milking Huang Mingjin for more money during his treatments. The more he thought about it, the more envious and regretful he became. Finally, he snorted in anger and stormed off toward the diagnostic building. The 6 security guards were also stunned. They had never seen so much money before, nor had they encountered someone so wealthy that they could give away 1 million without batting an eye. What baffled them even more was their captain's reaction. He had frowned and seemed reluctant to accept the money. If it were them, they would have snatched it without a second thought. Their captain was truly extraordinary, with a mindset unlike anyone else's. "The show's over. Back to work," Du Zhong barked, pocketing the bank card. The 6 guards snapped to attention and returned to their posts. Du Zhong patted the card in his pocket, lost in thought for a moment, then temporarily left the hospital. With Wang Hao and the others on duty, he felt assured. Most importantly, he needed to manage the 1 million Huang Mingjin had given him. After leaving the hospital, Du Zhong went to the bank. He anonymously donated 800,000 to a charity fund and transferred the remaining 20,000 to the accounts of his 8 comrades. He believed this would solve their immediate problems, but to truly improve their lives, he needed to work harder. But times had changed. Of the 10-member special ops team that had once struck fear into the hearts of ruthless criminals, only Du Zhong remained unscathed. 8 were disabled, and 1 was in a coma. The tragedy weighed heavily on him. Du Zhong no longer carried his own burdens alone. He carried the weight of all 10. "I need to find a way to make money," Du Zhong vowed silently. Now penniless again, his most urgent task was to earn as much as possible. He tried calling Alligator's wife, but Alligator didn't answer. Du Zhong understood. He was still a soldier, and he would always be a soldier. He asked the wife to inform the others, and amid their expressions of gratitude, he ended the call with a heavy heart. Sighing deeply, he returned to the hospital. When he arrived at the security office, he found it empty. Where have these guys gone? He wondered. Just as he was puzzling over it, a young nurse in a white coat rushed in. "Excuse me, is Du Zhong here?" She glanced around, noticing only one person in the room, and finally asked, "That's me. What can I do for you?" Du Zhong replied politely. Had there been another medical dispute? Doctors and nurses rarely visited the security office, and this nurse had come specifically to find him, the security captain. "Oh, it's nothing urgent. Old Man Sheen would like to see you and asked me to let you know," the nurse said with a smile. "Old Man Sheen. So, he's finally seeking me out." Du Zhong nodded and said, "I understand. I'll head over right away. Old Man Sheen's department is on the top floor of the main building, the traditional Chinese medicine department. Don't go to the wrong place," the nurse reminded him before turning and hurrying back to the hospital building. In today's society, no one believed in spiritual ailments. Neither Du Zhong nor Old Man Sheen took the security job seriously. There was an unspoken understanding between them. Old Man Sheen had intentionally kept Du Zhong around, and Du Zhong wanted to see what the old Chinese medicine practitioner had in mind. Today, Old Man Qin had finally made his move. After a quick look around and failing to locate the other guards, Du Zhong sighed in resignation. As he pondered how to discipline his team, he made his way to the hospital's top floor. Du Zhong, an apprentice of traditional Chinese medicine, wandered through the intricately designed corridors until he finally spotted a peculiar department labeled TCM Clinic. Pushing the door open, he stepped inside and was immediately taken aback. The room bore no resemblance to a typical hospital consultation room. Instead, it looked like a charmingly antiquated TCM clinic. The space was vast, filled with various vintage artifacts that faithfully recreated the atmosphere of an ancient medical hall. It was fully equipped with a medicine cabinet positioned behind the counter, eliminating the need to visit a separate pharmacy downstairs. To his surprise, Du Zhong noticed that besides Elder Qin, Wu Haihua was also present. Elder Qin, with his silver hair and rosy complexion, stood by the medicine cabinet, seemingly searching for herbs. Wu Haihua stood respectfully beside him, head slightly bowed, intently observing Elder Qin's every move. When Wu Haihua noticed Du Zhong's arrival, a flicker of malice flashed his eyes before he quickly lowered his head again. "Greetings, Elder Qin," Du Zhong said respectfully bowing. Du Zhong closed his eyes, quietly sensing the information in his mind. 3 minutes later, his eyes snapped open, filled with complexity. Tang Yuan's condition could be cured, but also couldn't. The ancient medical arts were indeed miraculous. However, while there was a treatment method, it required him to understand the illness with the utmost precision. Otherwise, the slightest deviation could lead to a huge error, potentially worsening the condition. It was as if he now possessed all the keys to cure every illness and knew exactly which key fit which lock, but the inheritance hadn't given him the ability to identify the lock. In other words, he had to start learning medicine from scratch, mastering the diagnostic methods of traditional Chinese medicine. Observation, listening, questioning, and pulse-taking to personally and accurately understand the condition. Without knowledge of observation, listening, questioning, pulse-taking, and how to treat physical illnesses, no one would trust him. They'd simply dismiss him as a lunatic. Elder Qin turned to face him, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Du Zhong, you've arrived." "Yes, I came as soon as I received your summons," Du Zhong replied respectfully. Elder Qin chuckled softly before turning back to his search for herbs. Casually, as if making small talk, he asked, "I heard Huang Mingjin presented you with a banner praising your miraculous healing skills?" He cut straight to the point. Wu Haihua immediately shifted his gaze to Du Zhong, his expression filled with disbelief. Earlier that day, he had returned to the department and inquired about the rumors. Hearing that Du Zhong had cured Huang Mingjin's late-stage bone cancer had left him stunned. How was it possible? Not only was it hard to believe that anyone could cure late-stage bone cancer, but the idea that a security team leader had accomplished it seemed even more far-fetched. Yet, many had confirmed the story, leaving him no choice but to accept it, though he still refused to believe it. Du Zhong turned his attention directly to Wu Haihua. "It wasn't Haihua who told me. It was one of the security guards under your command." Elder Qin added with a grin, "Let me introduce you. Dr. Wu Haihua from the orthopedics department is also my nominal disciple." "Nominal disciple?" Du Zhong nodded thoughtfully. No wonder those little rascals had vanished. They must have been busy spreading the glorious tales of the security team. After a moment of silence, Du Zhong's grandfather said, "It's not too late for you to learn now, but you need to find a good master." A hint of pride flashed across Wu Haihua's face, though he remained reverent whenever he looked at Elder Qin. Haihua mentioned that Huang Mingjin's test results showed late-stage bone cancer. With illnesses like cancer, once they reach an advanced stage, the chance of recovery is virtually lost. Elder Qin gestured for Du Zhong to sit. Yet, in the blink of an eye, Huang Mingjin's results returned to normal. "Could you tell me how you managed that?" They sat facing each other at a small desk. "Everyone has their own secrets," Du Zhong replied candidly. To his surprise, Elder Qin simply smiled and did not press further. Instead, he said, "Everyone is entitled to their secrets. Regardless of how you did it, saving a life is a good deed. There's one thing I'd like to know. Have you studied traditional Chinese medicine before?" "Never," Du Zhong answered truthfully. A peculiar glint flickered in Elder Qin's eyes, one that seemed almost excited. He suddenly asked, "Then, would you like to learn TCM?" "What?" Wu Haihua was utterly shocked. Elder Qin's words clearly indicated his intention to teach Du Zhong TCM. How could this be? The woman he had his eyes on was already living with Du Zhong, and now his mentor, or at least half of him, was about to be snatched away too. Wu Haihua glared fiercely at Du Zhong. Was this man his natural adversary? Here comes the main point, Du Zhong thought to himself. No one in the Du family currently meets your requirements. The medical skills are average at best. Yes, Du Zhong responded without hesitation. He saw no reason to feign modesty. Only a fool would let an opportunity slip away. He added, but it also depends on who I learn from. In his mind, Du Zhong already had someone in mind, the nationally renowned TCM master Qin Kaiyuan, who was already in his 80s. Elder Qin before him appeared to be in his 60s at most and couldn't possibly be Qin Kaiyuan. Still, until he found the right person, learning from Elder Qin might not be a bad idea. However, he knew little about Elder Qin, both his character and medical skills. He needed to assess him further. What about me? Elder Qin laughed heartily, not taking offense. Without waiting for Du Zhong's reply, he continued, you can come here every afternoon to observe consultations. That way, you'll see for yourself whether studying TCM with me is worthwhile. He looked at Du Zhong, awaiting his response. Meanwhile, Wu Haihua, who had been listening intently, grew increasingly alarmed. He hurried forward, determined to prevent Elder Qin from accepting Du Zhong. Teacher, he's just a lowly security guard with no medical background. He's also older. Learning TCM at his age would be as difficult as climbing to the heavens. Teacher, perhaps you should reconsider. After several humiliating encounters, Wu Haihua's resentment toward Du Zhong had only grown. As Elder Qin's only nominal disciple, he feared not that Du Zhong would outshine him, but that something that had once belonged solely to him would be shared. First, it was the woman. Now it was his teacher. How could he possibly be happy about this? Even if it was only a nominal discipleship, he wanted to be the only one. Du Zhong turned and, seeing Wu Haihua's agitated expression, couldn't help but chuckle. That laugh instantly fueled Wu Haihua's rage. In his eyes, Du Zhong's smile was like that of someone mocking a clown, infuriating him beyond measure. Elder Qin chuckled softly, his gaze shifting between the two before settling on Wu Haihua. Haihua, as the saying goes, where there's a will, there's a way. It lies in one's heart and character. His words carried profound meaning. Wu Haihua was no fool. Hearing this, he shot a resentful glare at Du Zhong and fell silent. By then, Du Zhong had shifted his focus from Wu Haihua to Elder Qin. Since you show me such kindness, Elder Qin, I humbly accept. Why not start today? Du Zhong bowed respectfully. Very well. Elder Qin stood up as well. Before we begin consultations, I'll first introduce you to the herbs. I remember there's a renowned master of traditional medicine in Kaiyuan City, Qin Kaming, who's 80 years old and hasn't been seen for a long time. Du Zhong's knowledge of TCM was limited. To learn it, the first step was naturally to familiarize himself with medicinal herbs, exactly what he needed. Ancient medical arts included herbal treatments, and though his mind was filled with prescriptions, he couldn't recognize the herbs themselves. This would undoubtedly be a problem when preparing medicines for patients in the future. Elder Qin's suggestion to learn about herbs perfectly aligned with his needs. Familiarize yourself with the surroundings first. I'll make some preparations, Elder Qin instructed before turning and entering a side room in the clinic. Du Zhong began to wander around the clinic, taking a closer look at the entire space. Apart from the medicine cabinet and the specialized TCM scale for weighing herbs, there were tools for decocting and preparing medicines. Even the division of areas was meticulously planned. At a glance, the room felt neither cramped nor chaotic. Instead, it evoked a sense of solemnity and purpose. Soon, under Wu Haihua's murderous glare, Du Zhong became fully acquainted with the clinic's layout. Elder Qin emerged from the side room and handed Du Zhong a notebook. Inside, the names, properties, indications, and cabinet numbers of various Chinese herbs were neatly recorded. I have quite a variety of herbs here, Elder Qin said with a hint of pride. Memorizing all of them in a short time is no easy task. Start by trying to remember as many as you can. Take your time with the rest. There will be plenty of opportunities later. As Elder Qin spoke, Du Zhong quickly flipped through the notebook. Each time he memorized a herb, he glanced up to locate it in the medicine cabinet. Before long, it was time for consultations. A line of patients had already formed outside the clinic, stretching far beyond sight. The TCM department? Is this popular? Du Zhong marveled inwardly. In this era, Western medicine had become the world's dominant medical practice. Although TCM had spread globally, its reach was not as extensive as Western medicines. In Du Zhong's experience, almost all the patients he encountered relied on Western medicine for treatment, with very few seeking TCM diagnoses. The Du family's TCM practice had also declined over the years. Du Zhong, Elder Qin called out. Today, you'll be responsible for dispensing medicines from the cabinet. His medical skills are beyond my reach. In TCM, recognizing and dispensing herbs was an introductory stage. It was also the phase that tested one's character the most. Elder Qin assigned Du Zhong this task, not only to help him quickly memorize the herbs, but also to gauge his patience through the tedious work. Understood, Du Zhong nodded. The first step in learning TCM and diagnosing illnesses would begin with dispensing herbs. Having made up his mind, Du Zhong walked directly to the medicine cabinet. Nearby, Wu Haihua watched as Du Zhong was assigned to dispense herbs and felt a secret delight. I knew it. How could a mere security guard learn TCM? No wonder teacher let him stay. He's just using him as free labor. He glanced at Du Zhong, a sly smirk curling his lips. With that, the consultations officially began. As Elder Qin started seeing patients, a gleam of determination shone in Du Zhong's eyes. He focused intently on Elder Qin. Whether he would commit to learning from him depended on the diagnostic methods he observed. The first patient was a pale, gaunt young man. Feeling unwell, lethargic, mentally disoriented, and occasionally experiencing blurred vision. Elder Qin sat upright, his eyes sharp and perceptive, as if he could see right through the patient. Yes, lately I felt completely drained, and even my favorite dishes don't taste as good as they used to, the thin young man replied, nodding. At Elder Qin's gesture, he raised his hand. Elder Qin nodded, reaching out to accurately take the young man's pulse. TCM relied on observation, listening, questioning, and pulse-taking. Elder Qin's concise, targeted questions and swift pulse-taking impressed Du Zhong. Such precise diagnostics were not something just anyone could achieve. After a moment, Elder Qin released the young man's wrist, a slight smile on his face. Nothing serious, just an excess of liver fire, disrupting your qi and blood flow, which affects circulation. If you can find him, it would be ideal, and if you can become his disciple, even better. Observing closely, Du Zhong noticed that Elder Qin's consultations were remarkably efficient. He diagnosed each patient in under 2 minutes and wrote out prescriptions swiftly. In contrast, most TCM practitioners would consider 50 patients a day a heavy workload. Receiving the first prescription, Du Zhong examined it carefully before searching for the corresponding herbs. He then used the TCM scale on the cabinet to measure the precise amounts. Coming from a family of TCM practitioners, Du Zhong had known how to use the scale since childhood. Elder Qin's prescriptions used traditional measurements like qian rather than modern grams, which posed no difficulty for Du Zhong. If he couldn't handle this, his grandfather would have scolded him relentlessly. Du Zhong carefully weighed the herbs listed on the prescription, locating, measuring, combining, and wrapping the herbs. He completed the process smoothly and without hesitation. Watching Du Zhong handle the task with such ease, Wu Haihua felt a mix of surprise and disdain. No matter how quickly he picked it up, he was still just labor material. Shocking everyone, although Du Zhong was quick, the prescriptions he received kept piling up under old Master Qin's almost unnerving speed of diagnosis, leaving him somewhat overwhelmed. Moreover, old Master Qin's pace accelerated even further, not even lifting his head, as if deliberately testing Du Zhong's ability to handle the herbs swiftly. It seemed more like an assessment of Du Zhong's composure under pressure. Watching the mounting prescriptions, Du Zhong's hands suddenly paused, his eyes narrowing slightly, as if growing impatient. Then I'll give it a try, Du Zhong agreed. Seeing this, Wu Haihua felt a surge of delight. Asterisk finally cracking under pressure. Old Master Qin despises those without steadiness the most. Huh, now you won't even get to do the grunt work? Just get lost? Asterisk. But in the very next second, Du Zhong set aside the traditional medicine scale and began grabbing herbs directly from the drawers with his bare hands. No weighing, just hastily gathering and packaging them. Beside him, Wu Haihua was momentarily stunned, and in that brief moment of confusion, Du Zhong had already prepared 3 sets of medicine with astonishing speed. Realizing what had happened, Wu Haihua's heart swelled with glee. He feigned indignation and shouted, Du Zhong, what do you think you're doing? Who gave you permission to grab herbs with your hands? Don't you know that herbs must be weighed? Don't you understand that precision and dosage is everything in traditional medicine? Even a slight deviation can ruin the treatment's effectiveness. A healer's heart should be as caring as a parent's. How can you be so irresponsible toward the patients? If something happens to a patient, who will take responsibility? Can you bear it? Wu Haihua's sudden outburst drew everyone's attention. Even old Master Qin looked up at Du Zhong, his brow furrowed. How do you know I didn't weigh them? Du Zhong retorted, continuing to grab herbs with his hands as he spoke, unfazed by the stares. At his grandfather's request, Du Zhong decided to guard the secret of the Du family's ancient medical arts closely. Right in front of everyone, he finished preparing another prescription without using the scale. You, how dare you argue? What are you doing? Du Zhong's defiance left Wu Haihua momentarily speechless, but inwardly, he was overjoyed. Earlier, no one saw, but now you're caught red-handed, using your bare hands to grab herbs. With such an irresponsible attitude, what right do you have to study traditional medicine? All eyes were fixed on Du Zhong. The patient waiting at the counter quickly retracted their hand, unwilling to accept the medicine. Those in line glared at Du Zhong with rising anger. They had come seeking old Master Qin's renowned expertise, and now someone was carelessly handling their prescriptions. Was this not endangering their lives? Dr. Qin, how could you let a novice handle our prescriptions? We may not understand traditional medicine, but we know that even a slight variation in dosage can lead to completely different outcomes. A woman waiting angrily turned and complained. Only the family head could know about it, and he was the undisputed next head of the Du family. As for his father, in his grandfather's eyes, he could step aside. With all the keys in hand, why fear not finding the lock? Du Zhong's eyes shone with intense confidence as he gazed into the distance, silently cursing in his heart. Tang Yuan, you slacker, just wait a little longer. I'll wake you up soon. After hanging up, Du Zhong took a deep breath, gazed at the starry sky, and wondered where the elusive master of traditional medicine, Qin Kaiyuan, might be. Perhaps he had a way to save Tang Yuan. Maybe Du Zhong wouldn't have to wait until he mastered the skills himself. The sooner Tang Yuan woke up, the better. Thinking of Tang Yuan reminded Du Zhong of his comrades who had been discharged due to disabilities from injuries. So the person who died in the hospital due to medical disputes wasn't killed by you? Who did it then? That young nurse may be small, but her heart is dark. How can a matter of life and death be dismissed with just a couple of sentences? A middle-aged man dressed in mourning clothes stepped forward. Though his face was filled with grief, Du Zhong could see the excitement hidden deep in his eyes at a glance. I know you. Du Yuha angrily pointed at the middle-aged man and said, You're Wang Lu, a professional medical dispute instigator. You're not even their family member. You were paid to come here and cause trouble, taking kickbacks from the dead. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? Upon hearing this, Wang Lu's face turned extremely grim. He glared fiercely at Du Yuha, gritting his teeth, and sneered. Such a foul-mouthed little nurse. Is this the attitude of a hospital that's responsible for a death? It seems you're just asking for trouble. Come on, slap her mouth shut. As soon as he finished speaking, several strong men in mourning clothes charged forward with menacing expressions. This scene ignited a cold fury in Du Zhong's eyes. Try laying a finger on her. A bone-chilling voice brought everyone to a halt. The middle-aged man and Wang Lu frowned and turned to see Du Zhong, who had appeared at the stairwell unnoticed. They exchanged a glance, both looking puzzled. While organizing the inherited memories, Du Zhong came across the term virtual illness. In ancient Chinese medicine, illnesses were divided into tangible and virtual diseases. Tangible illnesses could be treated with medicine, acupuncture, and so on. But virtual illnesses could only be cured using special methods from ancient medical arts, such as talismans, hand seals, and incantations. Virtual illnesses were caused by the invasion of evil energy, misfortune, and turbid qi. If a person lacked virtue, frequently engaged in immoral actions, and had insufficient righteous energy, the evil energy between heaven and earth would naturally enter their body, causing virtual illnesses. Second brother, Du Yuha's heart finally settled. Yesterday's events had given her a strong sense that as long as her second brother was around, no problem was unsolvable. Second brother? The middle-aged man and Wang Lu exchanged another glance. The middle-aged man immediately caught on, pounding his chest in feigned anguish as he cried out, Well done. You clearly caused someone's death, and now you've brought and helped to deal with us, haven't you? It seems you have no intention of resolving this. Dad, you died so tragically. You can't even rest in peace. The hallway was once again filled with mournful wails and cries. Du Zhong frowned as he observed the scene. With the sharp perception of a special forces king, he had already detected something amiss. The old man on the sickbed might truly be dead, but this group was definitely not entirely composed of his family members. Many of them seemed more like the so-called professional medical dispute instigators. Frowning, Du Zhong walked forward and went straight to Du Yuha's side. As he passed the sickbed, he used his superhuman perception as a special forces king to confirm that the person on the bed was indeed not breathing. But does the absence of breath mean death? In the very first lesson of special forces training, their instructor had told them that unless someone's head was blown open, a knife was plunged into their heart, or their neck was broken, even if they were shot 10 times, the person lying in front of you could still be a living threat capable of killing you at any moment. The other nurses stared in surprise at Du Zhong, who exuded a strong masculine aura. They had never heard that Du Yuha had a brother, and such a handsome one at that. The hospital is a place for healing. Everyone, please keep quiet. Let's handle this matter properly without disrupting other patients, Du Zhong said coldly, having confirmed his younger sister was safe. He turned his icy gaze to the crowd. Disregarding the value of other lives was something he detested most. What kind of healing place is this? It's a murder den. If you don't give us a satisfactory solution today, we won't let this go. Wang Lu retorted. What solution do you want? How do you plan to not let it go? A clear, cold voice suddenly came from behind. A stunningly beautiful woman in a doctor's coat walked over from the elevator.